Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, hello, and welcome on in. We are going to be recapping day 8. We did cover the first portion with Jen on the stand on Cross Live, but we do have, of course, there's going to be redirect, recross, and then there's another witness, and we have not covered any of that. Welcome, Kidsmiths. Happy to see you. Happy you are able to join us. That is awesome. So let's jump right on in.
I solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter no pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes.
I mean, that's already funny.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. McCabe.
Morning.
I'd like to draw your attention back to the time that you were watching the SUV out of the front door, through the front door at 34 Fairview. Do you have that time in mind?
I never watched it, but I went and looked at it.
Saw it.
Sorry, yes.
All right. I just want to clear up one of the time frames that you indicated you last saw that SUV. You saw that SUV for the final time at 12:45 a.m., correct?
Okay.
It was up past the flagpole at that point.
Can't be sure of a specific.
Okay, first thing I want to say is this. So the 12:45, this came up on the previous day of Cross, day 7. And he's starting it off with this. We know the jury's taking notes. I think he wants to, for obvious reasons, draw attention to this. Now, we had talked about at length, right? We know that there's this Wi-Fi, right? That Karen connects to the Wi-Fi. And we've been talking about, like, had this come in? Did this not come in? You know, because he hadn't brought it up. So I went through everything. I went back through everything. And sure enough, as we kind of were thinking, the Commonwealth has not introduced that evidence yet from Trooper Guarino, right? I'm sure on purpose. And so therefore, as we know, this is strategic by the Commonwealth, having certain witnesses in certain orders, certain things have come in and certain things haven't. But the thing that surprised me the most is this. As per that timestamp, I went through the defense opening statements twice. Well, I also went through the Commonwealth also. I didn't expect Hank to mention that 12:36 a.m. timestamp, but I went through it just in case. But I did expect the defense to mention it. Now, that's the thing that's weird to me because, well, he can't, for example, bring that up with, I don't know, Jen McCabe, for example, because that's not evidence yet. As we all know, right? Opening statements is what you expect the evidence to show. And I was shocked he didn't mention it. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Like, I'm so surprised he didn't mention that in opening statements, especially because he goes through the timeline of, the voicemails. He mentions Karen's voicemails multiple times. He mentions Karen being at One Meadows multiple times. And I kept thinking, well, maybe it's this time where he does not mention that timestamp. I found that very interesting. So the jury does not know about that yet. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts as to why that he didn't mention that in opening statements. Shout out to Maisha, who's also joining us. So I've racked my brain. I can't think of a good reason to not have mentioned that. Now, even if that had come into evidence, I could think of a reason not to bring it up with her on cross because, she would only push back even harder on her seeing the SUV, right? But I can't think of and we know it hasn't come in anyway, but for not mentioning in opening statements is interesting. So let me know what you guys think. Welcome on in, Angel. Help yourself to a cough drop. I'm curious what you guys think. Okay.
Specific time.
You indicated at a prior hearing in June of 2023 that you, in fact, did see it for the last time at 12:45, and you know that because of a text message that you sent at 12:45. Is that right?
I did send a text message at 12:45. That is correct.
Did you say, quote, and by the way, for court and counsel, this is at 782 lines 24 through 25. 1 to 783, lines 1 through.
The thing is, and this is great. I mean, I really want to talk about this. And Kitzman's saying her thoughts. Maybe AJ just didn't realize how far the Commonwealth being presenting evidence. Possible, but the thing is I'm just gonna say that, like, if you're the defense, right? So Hank gave a timeline, and we have a graphic for that. I believe I put it in the Discord of the Commonwealth's timeline as per Hank Brennan's opening statements. Actually, let's pull that up. Let's just pull that up because that's super relevant here. And so it's basically, what he gave verbally, right? But this is in a chart. And if you're the defense, right? And again, the jury taking notes, wouldn't you want them to go ahead and start seeing problems with this timeline right from the get-go? I mean, as we know, that's part of the whole thing, right? You want to get them on your side as quickly as possible and then have them fighting for you back in the deliberation room. So, okay, here is this. Naisha's going to be rating the cough drop ball. Go for it. So, okay. So here, oh my God, I didn't need to zoom in that much. So here's his timeline. So let's take a look here. So we have 1224, them arriving at 34 Fairview. Again, this is from the Commonwealth in opening statements, this trial. Then there's the 1227. John gets a text from Jen McCabe here. 1229, Jen texts again, are you coming in? Now remember, likely Karen would have needed to have left by this point in order to make it back in time for that connection, right? Jen looks outside, sees Lexus in front of the flagpole. There's the truck. 1231 or almost 1232, Jen texts pull behind me. Now, of course, it looks like the 7 butt dials are not on here, of course. But now what's interesting is we have this at 1236. So Breenan does say, so this is so funny. So let me back up. 1232, we have these events from I guess he doesn't give a time exactly, but from the vehicle, right? And then we have 1233, she calls John, quote, after leaving Fairview, end quote. And then at 1236, Karen leaves a voicemail, John, I fucking hate you, right? Now that's what he says. He doesn't mention that at that same time, this is the whole thing, right? That's the phone connecting to the Wi-Fi, leaving that voicemail, right? So he does not mention that, but he does mention the 1236 with the voicemail. And I think he's trying to make it seem to the jury like she's still driving back. Maybe. Although having said that, it's still a problem because he says she's after leaving Fairview here. I mean, and there's 1245, right? Battery time 61 degrees. We have nothing there about 1245. Jen McCabe sees a SUV, right? This is from the Commonwealth. So is the Commonwealth banking on the fact that the jury's going to just disregard her testimony about that? Which is really funny, right? If you're the hold on, let's just think about this. So this timeline problem, right? Okay. If you're the Commonwealth, you've got a problem here because the only way her timeline is impossible with the facts of the case, unless she saw a different SUV, right? So either your route is trying to say that it was a different SUV, right? Or you have to change the timeline that Karen is somehow still there even after she's connected to Wi-Fi at One Meadows. Or if you're the Commonwealth, it's just, oh, well, ignore Jen McCabe is clearly lying. She's clearly got a terrible memory. She doesn't know anything and just disregard her testimony. Right? So it's like, I don't know. What do you guys make of that? It's a lot. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Welcome in, Candace. I just, for anyone who's just now getting here, we're discussing the fact that the defense didn't even mention the 1236 connection to Wi-Fi in opening statements, which they could have done. And what was their strategy there? And then that led us back to looking at the Commonwealth's timeline. So where I was going with this is looking at the Commonwealth's timeline, right? You would think that the defense would want to go ahead right out the gate and like push back on, here's the problems with their timeline, right? So I don't know. I mean, I guess if the Commonwealth is conceding that Karen definitely was there at 1236, again, by doing that, what they're saying is, well, Jen McCabe doesn't know what she saw and she doesn't know anything. I mean, and you know what I mean? And like, that's a problem for the Commonwealth, right? Because they're relying on her for the, I hit him 3 times. So what do you make of that? I mean, Jesus. So, okay. Well, we will continue our discussion on this. Let me go back to the testimony here as we consider this, can ponder this. Okay. Okay, cool. Right. That's correct. The timeline doesn't suggest that she was still at 34 Fairview. Right. Exactly. Well, that's when I saw that. That's when I realized, well, hang on, are they going to just concede that Jen McCabe doesn't know what she's talking about? I mean, she's an important witness for the Commonwealth, right? Yeah, the 1232 is when they have the data from the car, right? So the thing that they don't have, though, the Commonwealth, they don't have any way to put the car still there at 1232 where they have the vehicle data, right? Like I just pulled it back down, but at somewhere around 1232, right? That's where she moves forward, goes into neutral, presses the pedal, all that. But they have no way to know where she was when she did that, right? How do they have any way to know? Based on the eyewitnesses who see the SUV out there, according to them, right? So maybe, I mean, unless Karen testifies, right? We don't know. But it is true. It is true that if Karen is still at 34 Fairview at 1232 and is, her reels are spinning, whatever it is, whatever's going on there, like the events of the pedal and the 70 feet and all that, right? If she's outside 34 Fairview at 1232, I don't think she could have made it back to John's in 4 minutes. So, but we know that she connected to Wi-Fi at that time. Like that timestamp is not in dispute, to my knowledge. I mean, unless it is, and that's why the defense didn't mention it, right? So, I mean, because usually that's pretty solid, right? It's connecting to Wi-Fi. That puts her there. So that begs the question then, was this vehicle, let me just pull this back up. And thank you for mentioning this, Kit Smits. I'll pull it back up. Welcome on in, Scott. So does that make then this, okay. So here's what I was referencing with the event. So 1232, right? There's the car. Is that somewhere else? Right? The only other thing that we've got that puts Karen at 34 Fairview is like literally her saying that she was there and he got out of the car or whatever. But other than that, it's the eyewitnesses that say they saw a dark SUV. Now, I mentioned this in the first trial, that I found it interesting that nobody says Lexus. We talked about this. They all say a dark SUV. And I thought, that's interesting, right? They don't want to say it's a Lexus. Why? And then there's the Ford Edge thing. So is this what they're going to go with? Like, oh, well, maybe all these people were mistaken and they were really seeing a Ford Edge. It's crazy, right, guys? So those quotes, I would say, are because it's quoting what Hank said. That he doesn't know when she left Fairview, right? Because he doesn't. I mean, they don't. And I don't recall what the deal was with her cell phone location data. Do you guys? I mean, like, what is the deal with, like, her cell phone location data would answer all these questions, right? Because, there's the whole thing with the car, but like, if you're wanting to know where she is, right? I mean, it's the cell phone. So I don't know what the deal is. I mean, there was no location data from her in the first trial. And clearly there isn't going to be in this trial either, or they would have had a lot more. The timeline would be very specific, and it would, I don't know, it would fuck it up for somebody, that's for sure. I mean, maybe she just had her location services turned off. I don't remember. They were relying on the Waze app from John's phone, but after he gets out of the car, ostensibly, then that doesn't help in terms of Karen. It's just very odd, right? So, okay. When does the Bluetooth disconnect exactly? So these are questions over here, or inconsistencies. Yeah. I mean, the thing is like they didn't have it. I just don't know why they didn't have it. They definitely did not have it. It's just, that's just the thing, is like, where was it? What happened to it, right? I mean, it would have come in if they had it. So, okay. Right. Thanks, Kits is saying she remembers someone saying she had her location service turned off on her phone or in her car. I mean, we know that there were issues with getting stuff from the car and because the Commonwealth fucked it all up. So, but the phone though is really the key thing, right? Because it's like, that is par for the course. So if you don't have that, I would imagine it's turned off, at least for the phone. So, okay. Now we'll go back to the trial. So many questions though, guys. I don't know. Okay.
13 or so. Actually, 1 through 3. It's 782 going to 783. May I approach on?
Yes.
Thank you very much. No problem. Actually, Ms. McCabe, and for court and counsel, I'm going to back up just a little bit up to line 20. You stated, quote, "So I think my husband and I were talking just like about what they were doing. And then I sat back down, and then at one point I think I said hello. And then I said at 12:42, where are you? And then flip. I don't know if that's my last text or if I did one more. Yeah, 12:45, hello, because they were still there. And then question. So the dark SUV was still outside the house
SUV.
at 12:45. Answer, at 12:45. Do you remember that question and answer colloquy back in June of 2023?
I've been asked a number of questions, specifically those words, no. I do remember testifying. I believe I said, I think in there. I think that, and to be honest, I'm not sure of exactly the times. I didn't pay close attention to when I was texting and when I was sitting. I was going back and forth to the door.
But
And I wonder if what the Commonwealth is banking on for this trial is that the jury will disregard all of her previous testimony, right? Her grand jury testimony, where she says the stuff about 12:45, where she doesn't say, Karen said I hit him 3 times, and all the other testimony, right? Except for her testimony today. And then, you know what's funny is that kind of makes sense, because how many times did Jen McCabe say, what I can tell you is sitting here today, here's what I remember, right? She said that a bazillion times. I should have been counting. Too bad. But she said that so many times over and over again for every question. And is that what they're banking on? Because like that's kind of a lot, though. That's a lot to expect of a jury, that they're going to be like, literally, of all her sworn testimony, which there's so much of, she was wrong all of those times, or lying all those times, or mistaken all those times. But now today, 100% accurate. I mean, but that maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know.
June of 2023, at a hearing under oath, you did say that it was at 12:45 that you last saw the vehicle.
I believe I said, I think.
Would you pressure recollection take a look at the transcript I just read from?
I believe the word I think is in there.
You believe, but you're not sure.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Would you pressure recollection?
Sure.
May I approach?
Yes.
So your memory's all terrible, but you have that memorized, apparently.
Thank you.
She must have been. She either remember before she had said when, or maybe it's on this day of cross. I can't remember which day of cross it is, but when he's like, you know, read. You want to read the all 227 pages or whatever it is, right? And she's like, I haven't seen it. She said she hadn't seen this transcript since last year, right? So either that was a lie, and she has seen it, because she's like, I think she's like, I said, I think it's in there, right? Or she was already prepped on how to answer that and told it was in there. Either way.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection, Mr. McCabe, what you said in June of 2023 about seeing the SUV at the location at 12:45?
I see what I read. Sorry. I saw what I just read. I don't remember my exact words of every testimony, but I did just read that. Yes.
And in fact, what you said back in June of 2023, quote, I don't know if it's my last text or if I did one more. Yeah, 12:45, hello, because they were still there. period, correct?
That's a part of what I said.
And then the question was, so the dark SUV was still outside the house at 12:45, answer at 12:45.
And then I said, I think, my husband and I. So there's more to that conversation.
The fact that she knew that she said, I think, she, again, either she was lying and she read the whole thing, or she at least read this, or she was prepped ahead of time by Breenan telling her the answer to this, which is wild.
Okay, what I read you is what transcript indicates you said on June 8th, 2023, correct?
So can you answer that? Is that correct?
That I saw it at that time.
Ask the question again.
Sure. That what you testified to in June of 2023 was you saw the SUV for the last time at 12:45. That's what you said, at least back then.
That's part of what I said.
And that's really the thing, isn't it, Kitsmith, though? It's like literally everything is wrong except for what she says today. Not only like before, just a second ago, I said all her prior testimony, right? That's what maybe the Commonwealth was hoping for. But not only that, sorry, not just all of her prior testimony, of which there's a ton, but also all of the law enforcement officers that gave her that interview, literally everything she has ever said pertaining to this case was wrong. And everyone who reported what she said was wrong. But she's right today. That's what you would have to believe, really. A lot.
I don't know if that's my last text or if I did one more. Yeah, 12:45, hello, because they were still there. Question, so the dark SUV was still outside outside the house at 12:45, answer at 12:45. That's what you actually testified to in June 2023.
That's what that says, correct.
Thank you. You've been asked about with whom you communicated first thing in the morning when you received that 4:53 a.m. call, there at that call and thereafter, shortly thereafter, within those next few minutes, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you were asked by Trooper Prince in a formal interview on February 1st, 2022. I know that was a while ago, but in that initial formal interview 3 days after the event, Trooper Prince, the female trooper, asked you who you called or who you communicated with during that important few minutes after you received the first phone call from Kaylee's phone, correct?
I'm not sure of our exact conversation, but she did ask me a number
That
of
is not
questions.
the question.
Do you remember telling her, I spoke with Karen Reed, obviously.
It's just so dumb.
Again, I answered whatever question
You know,
she asked me.
The
So
thing is really, it's like every single one of these answers is non-responsive. Just had to put that on the record.
she asked, I did speak with Karen Reed that morning, correct?
Okay, Ms. McCabe, my question is, did you tell Trooper Prince 3 days after the fact, I spoke with Karen Reed? Yes or no?
If you have a report, I don't remember the specifics. I met with many, many police officers.
Sure.
They can't do the report, and she knows that. He knows he can't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at her report?
I'd like to take a look at it. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you.
We'll see how far this goes, right? This is a disaster.
Ms. McCabe, you can familiarize yourself with that report, and there's a tab if that helps you, because it's somewhat lengthy.
Okay.
See if
That's
that
what she
refreshes your
said.
recollection.
Thank you.
Somewhat lengthy. Woo! Hi, Victory.
Ms. McCabe,
Welcome.
did that refresh your recollection as to what you told Trooper Prince?
I know what happened, so I just answered
Yes or
the
no?
questions.
Yes or no?
God.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told Trooper Prince?
Yes,
Okay. You told Trooper Prince that you had a conversation on Kaylee's phone with Miss Reed, correct?
yes,
That you also called Julie Albert after you got off the phone with Miss Reed the first time.
yes.
And then thereafter, at some point, you talked to Tom Beatty, correct?
I never spoke with Tom.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I misspoke. You called Tom Beatty.
Yes, I called Tom Beatty.
Did not get through to Tom Beatty.
I didn't, no one answered. Yes.
Okay. Then you spoke to the grand jury about the same issue. But who did you talk to and who did you call in those minutes after the initial call on Kaylee's phone, correct? I'm going to I'd like to be heard.
Right. Come on up.
Like, all right. He wants to be heard. Breenan just wants to be heard. Lord of mercy.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, you were also asked the same series of questions about, or a series of questions about the same events concerning that 4:53 phone call and the calls that you made shortly thereafter, correct?
Yes,
And in that testimony, you also, consistent with what you said to Trooper Prince, said, I spoke with Karen Reed on Kaylee's
Thank you,
phone. I then
Naisha.
spoke with Julie Albert, or I called Julie Albert, and then I called Tom Beatty, correct?
That
Why-
objection sustained.
what did you tell the grand jurors about who you called or who you attempted to communicate with in those first few minutes after that 4:53 a.m. call?
I don't know exactly what I said on that day, but I know who I spoke to.
You said on that day, you spoke to Karen Reed, correct?
On which day? What are we talking
The day of the grand jury.
Okay.
That
Why
would
are
be
you?
April 26, 2020.
Why is Judge Bev? Judge Bev has just now become like the Commonwealth. Like this is just. Why is she asked? Okay.
22.
Okay. Hi, you're welcome.
I don't have the paper in front of me, so I don't know my exact words.
Well, I'm not asking for your exact words, but did you tell them, as you sit here, do you remember telling the grand jurors under questioning by the Commonwealth that you spoke with Karen Reed?
I spoke with Karen Reed that morning. Again, I've been at many grand juries and different things. So to remember specifically, I don't remember specific questions and specific answers.
Not what he asked you.
But yes, Karen Reed did call me that morning on Kaylee's phone.
My question is, what did you say to the grand jurors? And you're saying you don't remember?
What question are you asking me?
Whom did you attempt to communicate with in those first few minutes after you first received the phone call on Kaylee's phone?
How much you want to bet she's gonna say? I don't remember the exact wording of the question, dude. I came out with her.
If you're asking me now, I can answer you.
I'm asking
I don't remember this. I'm sorry. I don't remember the specifics. If
There it is with the
you
specific.
want to show me and then I can review it. I know the answer to the question. I'm just not sure of my exact words on that day.
I mean, this is literally the most weaseling maybe ever.
I didn't ask you what your exact words were. I'm asking you about your
You
memory.
are on the
You're
stand.
testifying based on your memory, Ms. McCabe, are you not? Okay.
Go ahead
Why-
and answer that. Ms.
why-
Reed. Answering these questions based on your memory. Ms.
Oh
McCabe.
my God.
So I'm answering questions based on my memory of what happened on the 28th and the 29th. I've testified multiple times. I've been interviewed by multiple police officers. So to pinpoint one conversation is a bit of a challenge for me. But what I can tell you is what I remember from that day, which was, I'm sure, very similar
Literally,
to
he's trying to assist you by saying, here, that's understandable. Here, take a look at the transcript, but she won't do it.
however I answered, because
Or
it's the
she does it and she's like, that's not what I remember today. It doesn't refresh.
same.
Yeah,
Yes.
refresh your recollection.
I think it's so
Mr. Brennan with page one.
Sure. 188, 189, I think.
Dude, she's worse than
Thank
Amber. She's worse than Amber. She's worse
I
than
didn't get an answer to that question. Ms. McCabe, refresh your, I just have to do this for the record. Refresh your recollection, look at your transcript.
I'll look at it. Yes.
She's been coached probably like more than any lay witness like of all time, maybe. I mean, it is insane. You can tell every single question with only a few exceptions. Her answer is like memorized, rehearsed, practiced. It's crazy. Yeah, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, she's-
May I approach?
Yes.
not that it matters.
Thank you.
Did that refresh your recollection about
No, it
what
didn't.
you told the grand jurors in terms of whom you communicated with or attempted to communicate with that morning?
Yes.
What did you tell the grand jurors?
I told them that I communicated with Miss Reed and that I called Julie Albert.
And Tom Beattie.
Oh, and Tom Beattie. I'm sorry.
So in both of those statements, to Trooper Prince, when you were asked about your communications, and at the grand jury, by the way, at the grand jury, when you were asked who you communicated that morning, who you communicated with that morning, you didn't need to see a report, did you? You didn't ask to see a report like you're doing here.
Important distinction, because it's showing that her memory actually was better then, right? Trying to prove, like, look, obviously her memory was better then, you know, or she was just lying then too, but either way. But also, I pointed this out when we were watching it live. It's an important distinction because when she's on direct, she isn't asked to see stuff to refresh. And there's not all this fighting with needing, you know, because all her, she's just like agrees with everything, right? But on direct, or sorry, on cross, oh my God, on cross, everything is a fight with these transcripts from anything. And she can't remember anything and she needs to see it. And then when she sees it, it doesn't help. And it's just a mess. Yeah, it did. It did actually refresh. That's one of the rare times here.
I'm asking because you're asking specific questions about what I said on a specific day. And depending on who's asking the question, they ask questions in a different manner. So the answer is always going to be the same. If you ask me who I spoke to, I'm always going to tell you I spoke to Miss.
If the answer is always the same, then the question doesn't matter. So why did you preface it? Why did you preface it with the question? if your answer is always the same.
Reed and Julie, I called Julie Albert and I called Tom Beatty. The answer is always the same, but the way the question
But
asked,
also it's not though. So
maybe some of the words that I use may be different. And I don't remember on specific days. I've been questioned many times, but the answers are always going to be the same. The wording may be different.
so even though she's like, you're refresh my memory, what is all this nonsense?
You done?
Mhm.
Finished? That answer?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm going to allow that, but let's move on.
Wait, I'm trying to. When the Commonwealth asked questions about who you contacted
Yes.
at the grand jury, you didn't even have your recollection refreshed in. You said, I talked to Karen Reed, I called Julie Albert, I called Tom Beatty. Correct.
Correct.
And that's exactly what you told Trooper Prince as well. Karen Reed, Julie Albert, Tom Beatty. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
But you did make another phone call that morning that you left out of both of those statements, didn't you?
I'm not sure.
At 5:07 a.m., you called over to 34 Fairview, didn't you?
This I don't remember this from the first trial. This blew my mind.
If it's in my phone record, then I must have.
It's in your phone records that you're aware of. Well, let me ask it a different way. You're aware that your phone
Right,
records
Abby?
actually show that at 5.
Sorry, I'm just pausing so quick. That's so true. Abby is the reason we made the Discord. That was Abby pushing for the Discord. Yes. Thank you so much for that and for also being awesome and amazing. Exactly, Maisha. If the answer is always the same, why are you having a hard time answering the question? Yup. Yup.
If it's in my phone record, then I must have.
It's in your.
And the thing is, while that is, again, I appreciate kids' Mrs. Souls giving grace. The problem is, and that may be true, and I'm sure that could be true sometimes, but here she knows she was lying because her phone records show this phone call to 34 Fairview.
Your phone records that you're aware of. Well, let me ask it a different way. You're aware that your phone records actually show that at 5:07 you called to 34 Fairview Nicole Albert's phone, correct?
Correct.
It shows also that that call lasted 38 seconds, correct?
I'm not sure what it shows.
You actually spoke to your sister, Nicole, that morning?
I did not speak to my sister, no.
So that 38-second call went to voicemail?
I'm not sure. All I can tell you is I never spoke to my sister, Nicole, that morning prior to waking her up.
But you do acknowledge that you made a phone call at 5:07 to Julie Albert. I'm sorry, to Nicole Albert, your sister, over at 34 Fairview in those early morning hours, right?
Yes, I learned after. When I'm first being questioned, it's days after. It was a chaotic morning. I remembered the waterfall, Julie, then Tom Beatty. Calling to my sister wasn't as ingrained in my mind at that point. No.
And then you testified at a grand jury, not
Do you guys think the jury bought that? Let's hear it again. Do you guys think the jury bought that? I don't personally.
I learned after. When I'm first being questioned, it's days after. It was a chaotic morning. I remembered.
I mean, the thing is, like, to remember that you call Tom Beatty, who's like one of the least important people of all the names that are mentioned, and then, oh, I forgot about calling my sister. Come on.
Waterfall, Julie, then Tom Beatty. Calling to my sister wasn't as ingrained in my mind at that point. No.
And then you testified at a grand jury, not hours or days later.
Welcome,
You
Jennifer.
testified at
I
a grand
believe you're a
jury
new girlfriend.
months later, correct?
Correct.
And at that grand jury, you also left out the fact that you contacted
Yeah,
your sister. correct?
exactly.
There's nothing nefarious. I remembered who
Oh my God, I love this part so much.
correct.
And at that grand jury, you also left out the fact that you contacted your sister, correct?
There's nothing nefarious. I remembered who I called. I didn't go back and look at phone records
I didn't say it was nefarious. Why would you use the word nefarious?
because there's nothing about me calling my sister that
Oh,
is nefarious. And I feel like you're insinuating it might be, and it's not.
Did you use that word because it sounds nefarious?
No, I just use the word because I think that's how you're trying to portray something that is nothing.
Or did you use that word because you think that's how it's coming across? That's nefarious. You
No.
didn't without contacting 34 Fairview that way.
No, not at all.
Later that morning of January 29th, and by the way, you do acknowledge that your phone records show that you called at 5:07 a.m. to your sister's cell phone, correct?
I don't have them in front of me, but I believe that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Were you calling your sister's phone to alert her of something? Is that why you called?
No.
Later that morning on January 29th, after those initial phone calls and after the scene had been cleared, at about 11:30 in the morning, you did have a formal interview with Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor, did you not?
I did, yes.
The day before yesterday, you testified that Karen Reed, actually I think it may have been Tuesday, you testified on direct examination that Karen Reed just showed up at your house screaming, correct?
Correct.
In point of fact, you told Michael Proctor in that 11:30 a.m. or thereabouts, that interview that morning, that on January 29th, when Karen was on the phone with you, you told her to come to your house. Isn't that true?
No, I never told her to come to my house.
She told you she wanted to go search for John, and instead of saying, I'll come meet you, or
This is some good stuff right here. This is some good stuff.
I'll go wherever you want to go,
That's a
you
good
told
point
her,
too, Kitsman.
no,
Yes,
come
she
to
did.
my house and pick me up, and we'll go together. Correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Now that did come out, I
Do
believe.
you remember talking to Trooper Proctor on that day?
I do, yes.
Do you remember exactly what you told him concerning the plan to either come to your house or go search for John?
There was never a plan for Karen to come
Do
to my
you
house.
remember exactly what you told him with that regard on that issue?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a police report that he drafted
Oh my God.
on that issue?
Well, those are his words or summary.
That's not my question. I know these are his words. He wrote it.
Mhm.
My question is, would it refresh your recollection about what you told him to take a look at his report?
I know what happened and I know what I told him. I
Oh
don't
my
know what's written in that
God, stop
report.
being so non-responsive, y'all.
Yes or no?
I don't need to see the report
Oh
now.
my
Because it
God.
would not refresh your recollection to see.
See that answer again, if you're the jury, that does not look good, because how do you know if it wouldn't help if you don't even look at it? You know what I mean? The fact that they've been doing this with so many documents, and this is the first time that I recall on cross where she's like, I won't look at it. I refuse to look at it. Like, I refuse to look at it. It will not help. Like, not even pretending to look at it and then saying something like, that's crazy.
The report where he indicated
Really shameful looking to me.
that you directed Miss Reed to come to your house. I object.
The objection is sustained and we're going to strike that.
Wow.
You also told.
Okay, we can just let that close.
Wow. Yeah. Sidebar. It's a sidebar, but now it's over already. We didn't do it.
May I? Thank you. Ms. McCabe, during that same interview, you also told Trooper Proctor that while driving back to One Meadows, after you had been picked up by Karen at your house, while driving back toward One Meadows, that's actually when Miss Reed told you she had broken her taillight, correct?
Miss Reed told me in the morning at my house.
I know that's what you're testifying to now.
Mhm.
What I'm asking is, what did you tell Michael Proctor on January 29th? It's freshest in your mind.
That she had told me she had a cracked taillight when she called me.
You didn't tell him that she indicated she noticed her taillight had been damaged on the drive back to One Meadows after she got to your house?
She mentioned it then as well, but she also had told me when she was on the phone, that's why my husband yelled out that we shouldn't be driving with a cracked taillight.
But in fact, you did not tell Trooper Proctor that story. What you told him was she told you on the drive back to One Meadows after having picked you up, correct?
I told him she told me in the morning and on the drive back.
So if he didn't write that in his report, it's obviously incorrect. Gotcha.
Sustained.
Of course, that drive back to One Meadows would have been 5:30-ish or so, maybe even a little later, 5:35.
Agreed. And we actually just watched, by the way, for anyone who missed it, we just watched Amber on cross again in between. You know, they had her a day off in between Jen's cross. We watched Amber on cross for that reason, because a lot of people have been comparing the two. And yeah, no, Jen, so bad. Okay. So if you've seen her testify in the first trial, right? Then I think the perception of her will be different than people who didn't see her testify before, right? So I think she did better. Well, I don't know. I will just say this. I think she's even more weaselly than Amber Heard. But, you know, that's again because I know what all the weaseling is. And, you know, the jury maybe, I mean, I think they're definitely getting some of this, but they're not going to know how bad it is, probably because they don't have the experience of like understanding how, you know, impeachment and refreshing recollection works, and just the semantics of it all, and also having not seen the first trial. But, you know, there's a lot of weaseling. And I think she's definitely more coached. I mean, it's tough. They're both awful, right?
Approximately, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well after she backed out of the driveway and struck another vehicle at One Meadows, correct?
Do you know that?
No, I have no
All
idea.
right, next question.
Speaking of Trooper Proctor, when you first interviewed with him during that same interview on January 29th, you noticed that he was taking notes, obviously.
Yes, he was.
You told him about your observations of the taillight that day. Is that right?
I'd have to see the report, but I believe I told him about it, yes.
And that was literally the same day that you made the observations. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
He asked you to describe specifically what the taillight looked like.
Mhm.
And you did so, correct?
Could I see the report?
All I'm asking right now, I've got the report.
Okay.
If you need it, I'll give it to you. I'm asking about your memory. Ms. McCabe, did you tell him about what the taillight looked like?
If he asked me what the taillight looked like, then I would have told him what it looked like, yes.
And what you told Trooper Proctor on that day is that you, quote, saw a crack in it. Is that right?
I believe I said it was broken and cracked and it was missing pieces.
Isn't it true that what you actually said is
I think her
we got
brain
out at John's house and looked at the taillight, back right taillight, saw a crack in it, correct?
I said that I saw it and it was cracked and it was missing pieces.
You noted that he was taking notes, correct?
Correct.
Have you ever seen those notes?
No.
Would it refresh your recollection as to what you actually told him in terms of that description to take a look at his notes?
So ask it differently. That's sustained.
Sure. Do you
every time if Breenan objects, then it's like spacing out just the back to back of her being like, I refuse to look.
remember exactly the words you used in describing that taillight to Trooper Proctor as you sit here today?
Again, the taillight was cracked and missing pieces.
Okay, I know that's what you're testifying to today,
Mhm.
Ms. McCabe. We're all aware of that. You've said it 4 or 5 times now. What I'm asking you is, what did you tell Trooper Proctor on January 29th? That's my question. Do you remember the exact words you used to him on the 29th?
I believe I said it was cracked and missing pieces.
Do you know that, or are you guessing?
I'm not guessing.
Okay. Do you remember that specifically?
I remember describing it as cracked and missing pieces.
Do you remember saying it had a crack, or she saw a crack in it?
I do not remember saying that, no.
Would it refresh your recollection?
No, impeach.
Those are his notes.
Ms. McCabe, we can do this all day. Would it refresh your recollection to look at a copy of his notes? If it wouldn't, just tell us.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh my God.
As you sit here today, are you telling this jury that you deny saying to Trooper Proctor, you saw a crack in it? Are you denying that statement?
I'm not denying it.
So you could have told him that.
The thing is, right, is that the defense, okay, in criminal trials, the defense is allowed, and actually for that matter, it's true for civil too. They're allowed to admit evidence during the other side's case in chief, in this case, the Commonwealth's case in chief, right? The defense is allowed to admit items into evidence if it's to be used for impeachment. Or you can also use it to rebut something, but those are the ways, that they can admit evidence when it's not their case in chief. Great example, the Casey Anthony trial. The defense admitted so much evidence during the state's case in chief. It was crazy. It was really cool to see the defense, because they were just like, impeaching and rebutting everything. And so anyway, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a Judge Bev thing or if it's a specific to Massachusetts, but I just wanted to note that you can admit, like, for example, the fact that the Commonwealth hasn't called these law enforcement officers. I mean, maybe there's not enough foundation, but I don't know. The reports themselves, I feel like you should be able to get in and use for impeachment. I mean, and that's part of why there's a struggle here,
He asked me multiple times different questions. I spoke to him at my house, and then he had called me. So maybe one time I said it had a crack in it, and another time I said it was broken and missing pieces.
So it's very possible
I see that
that's how
might
you
be
described it on the 29th, Ms. McCabe. It had a crack in it, right?
And missing pieces.
I'm not asking you to finish my sentence. I'm asking you, is it possible that's what you told him that day? It had a crack in it. Yes or no?
Yes, that was one way.
Thank
Mhm.
In the days following January 29th, in the events of January 29th, 2022, were you and your family coordinating your versions of the events that occurred
Okay.
on that morning?
No,
Were you and your family coordinating some sort of damage control in terms of the language that your family would use to the public, to the press, to law enforcement?
No.
Did you and your family use a group chat? You and part of your family use a group chat to text each other to coordinate your communications with either the press or the public or law enforcement or family or friends?
I have multiple like group chats with family and friends.
You had a very specific group chat that included
Come on.
Yourself?
What are you talking about?
Nicole, your sister,
Mhm.
Brian Albert, and Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, if I may.
Okay.
It's okay. Can you tell?
Yes, this is a, looks like a group. Oh, no, just actually conversations with just myself and my sister, Nicole. No.
Do you have an extra copy so she has one and you
I'll just leave that one. I've got an extra copy for myself. I'll leave that one. Date of that series of chats?
Yes, it says 1/29/22.
Okay. Is that a chat just between yourself and yourself and Nicole, or is that?
He's just going to lay the foundation. We'll just go ahead. They're marking it. And then guess what? No surprise there. Okay. The only fan.
Overruled. It is now an exhibit.
There.
Before you consider any electronic communications in your deliberations, and you heard Trooper Garino read.
This drove me crazy. I ranted about this at length when this happened live. I'm not going to do it again here because there's just so much to feel like is unjust. So, yeah.
Read a lot of text messages the other day. I didn't interrupt him. I probably should have. But
This is just horrifying on so many levels.
before you consider any electronic communications in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the person who either authored or created or transmitted the communication was in fact the person alleged. So here we have communications allegedly between Ms. McCabe and her sister before.
Well, I don't even know that I noticed before, but she even uses the word allegedly. She says communications between Jen and her sister, and then she corrects herself and says allegedly. Incredible.
Before you can consider them, you must find that it's more
Really?
likely than not that they were the people who sent and received those. If you do not find it's more likely true than not that the person alleged to have
It's imposters.
created or sent them, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding your case. Now, when you read or hear about these text messages, you may not consider the statements for their truth, but you may consider them solely for the limited purpose of understanding the state of mind of Ms. McCabe when she sent those messages.
Just briefly,
So now
I'll
that-
just say unnecessary. If it's not being offered for the truth, then it's not hearsay. So then why? She's what she's saying, state of mind, that's like, think of Elaine from Deputy Heard, right? This is to get hearsay in, right? One of the exceptions. If it's not being offered for the truth, it doesn't need an exception because it's by definition not hearsay. I cannot with her. That's here. Woo!
That's what I needed to do. Mr. Jackson, your turn.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the court's permission, I would ask that the January 29th text
Got
be
it.
published.
Judge
Yes.
Preston.
Mr. Wolf, is there a way to, there we go.
Margaret, the witness might need that exhibit.
Your Honor, may I approach just to review
Margaret?
the exhibit?
Yes.
Wow, it was much colder here, James. It was like
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, so these are okay. Then wait, hold on. No, I want to hear this because there's some good. That's what she said.
Yeah, I was just going to say, could you please enlarge that?
Any way
That's
to
what
make
she
that
said.
clear? And we'll take one bubble at a time.
Ms.
Baker.
McCabe, do you need lights on or are you okay?
Oh, I'm okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Need a flashlight. Okay, Carrie talked to the cops and kept it simple. Fine. We're gonna go ahead a little bit because we're just going through the basics here. Okay, talk tomorrow. Great. That's wonderful. Any update? We'll get more information tomorrow. Don't want to text about it. Now, that one was, I think, the most probably noteworthy of, I think, from the ones just between her and Nicole, assuming it's them and not imposters. LOL. Text me in the AM if you hear anything later. Great. And then,
In other words, the top text on the page was from your sister to you. Will you,
defender, why do you think the defense didn't mention the 1236 connection to Wi-Fi at One Meadows in their opening statements? Curious.
more info, TOMM, correct? It's tomorrow.
Yes.
This was January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
Tomorrow would have been January 30th,
Yes.
2022. Is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm holding another document. This is a multi-page document.
Okay.
848.
Thank you.
Can you please take a look?
She's going to give this instruction again. I believe she does it here. Judge that, I mean. It takes a long time on this one.
Great. Stand at the witness stand for just a second. A couple of foundational questions yourself. I'm sorry.
Foundation, great.
You could just look at the first and the last one.
Say, for identifying.
Oh, can I?
Regarding, this is not to be used for the.
There it is.
But simply as opposed to a fake statement.
Literally makes no sense. If it's not for the truth, it's by definition not hearsay.
With the court's permission to publish, please.
Yes.
If we start at the second text down, I apologize.
We figure.
Thank you. Do you recognize what's depicted both on the, who is that from and who is
So
it
we
to?
don't need to hear all this explanation about how to read this. We've talked about it. We already figured it out. We figured it out before they asked. So D&E Pizza. Tell them the guy and everyone in the house. Now, some people I think were confused. This came in the first trial. It came in through Matt McCabe though. When he was fussing with this, he had the phone flashlight disaster. That was so fucking funny. Okay. John O'Keefe. Okay.
Can you orient us? Who is this text from and who is it to?
Okay.
And we had this from last time, so I'm going to go ahead here. OMG. Great. Okay. This one we did not have last time. This was a new text to ask if we heard she's in a mental hospital.
My sister Nicole.
That's new.
It was from your sister Nicole,
Yes.
and she mentions a she, a pronoun she.
Yes.
Is that referring to Julie Albert?
To be honest, I don't know who she's referring to.
Well, remember the first text
Who do you think, though, Jen?
started, or did the first text start with someone reporting that Julie said that Channel 4 was in D&E?
Yes, it did.
So would that prior text mean get Julie Albert to get some updates on what's going on? Let's go back to that last text one more time.
Yeah,
The fact that, here's what I think. I think there's some texts that are missing. That's what I think. I think there's some texts that are missing because some of these don't make a lot of sense unless they were speaking on the phone in between. I mean, 100% easy to guess my guess, Karen. But I think there's another one where it's like, because we talked about it. I'm sure it's coming up. But I'm wondering if there's some texts missing.
You see where it reads is at D&E?
truly not sure if
Mr. Wilk, I think you missed one. Who's this text from and who's it to?
and to Matt.
And what does this read?
This says to ask if we heard if she is in a mental hospital.
Next text, please.
Thank you.
Who is this from and who's it to?
This is from me to my sister Nicole, to Brian, and to Matt.
What's the time on this text?
2:55.
And what does it read?
Carrie is here going over timeline.
Who's the Carrie referring to?
Carrie Roberts.
What is here?
I would assume here would mean my house.
Next text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
Can y'all imagine Matt McCabe in that situation? I mean, shit, with all the light, he couldn't see anything, including with a flashlight.
This is from Brian to me, to Nicole, to Matt.
Welcome
And what
back,
does this text
Breenan.
read?
I did hear that.
Next text, please. Who's this text from and who's it to?
This text is from me to my sister Nicole, to Brian, to Matt.
What does it read?
And we handed the phone to Carrie Roberts.
I thought it was interesting that she smiled/laughed there.
What phone are you referring to?
Mine.
Who was on the other end of that phone?
Trooper Proctor, we know.
From me to Nicole, to Brian, to Matt.
What does it read?
She is telling him everything.
Everything is in all caps with an exclamation point, correct?
Yes, it is.
What's the timestamp on this, Ms. McCabe?
2:55.
Who's the him that you're referring to in this text?
I believe it was Michael Proctor.
Next text, please. Who is this from and who's it to?
This is from me to Nicole, to Brian, to Matt.
What's the timestamp on this text?
2:55.
Same minute that you sent the last text?
Yes.
She's telling him everything?
Yes,
And then you follow up with what?
all the stuff.
Next text, please. Who's this responsive text from?
This is from Matt to myself, Nicole, and Brian.
And what's the timestamp on this?
4:35.
What does this read?
Yep. If she pleads out, it will end. If she fights it, it will be an episode.
Right there. We did not get that text last time. That to me is insanity. That is insanity. Oh my God, that text though. Wow.
Yep. If she pleads out, it will end. If she fights it, it will be an episode.
Who's she?
I'm assuming that would be Miss Reed.
Yeah. That is crazy. That is so damning in terms of pointing to the whole thing. I mean, my God. Welcome in, Charlie. Happy to see you. That's a good point there, Maisha. I mean, wow.
Next text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
This is from Nicole to me, to Matt, and to Brian.
I
What
mean,
does this
yeah,
read?
and to the extent that it is true, it's being made to be, I mean, the insanity, right? We're on trial number 2 because the Commonwealth decided to try this case again. They didn't have to do that, right? I mean, to the extent that they accurately predicted the insanity, I mean, what does that point towards, right?
She liked the text about
the previous text,
Yes.
meaning like a thumbs up or a like.
Wow.
Yeah, it just says liked. So
The one that reads, yeah, if she pleads, it will end.
Mhm.
If she fights, it will
Wow.
be an episode.
yes.
Wow.
Next text, please.
Wow.
Who's this from and who's it to?
This is from Matt. Oh, sorry, to me, to Nicole, and to Brian.
And what does this read?
Brian, sitting separate.
Is that a period or a comma? I honestly can't see. Is that a period or a comma between Brian and sitting? Or can you tell?
I can't tell if it is or it's just like the way it printed out. I'm not sure.
Next text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
Brian, to me, Nicole, and Matt.
What's the timestamp on this?
Yeah, so I mean that's fine, but what I'm saying is it's like the fact that they said if she doesn't plead out, it'll be insanity, right? It's like predicting the future because you're creating the future, right? I mean, one could interpret it that way. I mean, and the thing is like never should anyone in any case where someone's arrested be like, oh, the person should just plead, right? That is a decision that's made between a defendant and their attorney, and it's a very carefully weighed decision. And there's literally no way that early on, 3 days after the event, right, when someone's first arrested, there's not even discovery yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's really messed up, whether you think somebody did something or not. Like, that's a messed up thing to say. But especially in the context of this case, where it's not just, like, in other words, it would be different if it was like, you know, I've heard from an attorney, I'm making an example, right? If someone were to say, yeah, I heard from an attorney that sometimes it's better to plead. That would be one thing. But to say like, if she pleads out, it'll go away. I don't remember if Breenan was. If she pleads out, whatever, and then if she doesn't, it'll be insanity, is like, how do you know it's going to be insanity though? You know what I mean? And it's just hits different.
That is 4:55.
And what does that text read?
Okay.
And the next text. This is another green bubble. Who's this from and who's it to?
This is me, Matt, me, Nicole, Matt, and Brian.
And what did you say? What did you write in this text?
I wrote you listening.
And what's the timestamp on this?
That is 5:15.
I'm sorry, it would be what time?
Oh, I'm sorry, 5:15.
And in fact, at 5:15, Ms. Roberts was in your house being personally interviewed by Massachusetts State Police, correct?
They were there. I'm not sure if this is the exact time, but yes, they did come over.
Just to be clear and to orient us, there was a phone conversation that you were privy to between Carrie Roberts and Michael Proctor.
Yeah, that's possible.
She was
Earlier in the day,
yeah, earlier in the day he had called me and then Carrie had asked to speak with him.
and that's the handed her phone.
Yes.
And later, a couple of hours later, 5-ish or so, she was still at your house. Michael Proctor came over and interviewed her at your home.
No,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Massachusetts State Police.
Came over and spoke to myself, her, and Matt.
And you wrote you listening to the group, correct?
Yes.
Who was that specifically directed to?
I I honestly don't know.
Was there anybody else in the house during her interview other than you and the troopers?
My husband, Matt, my daughter, her friend, my other daughter. There
So
was-
of the people on this text chain, the only person that would have been in the house that could have conceivably, quote unquote, listened would be Matt. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, we discussed this at length at the beginning of the live stream. It has not come into evidence yet, but I was surprised the defense didn't mention it in opening statements. And I think this is something similar to what Kit Smith said. Why would they mention their trump card? Because that's not how it works, right? Like, again, we at the beginning of the live stream, we went through the Commonwealth's timeline from opening statements this time around. And it's like, you want to get the jury on your side from the get-go, right? As we all know. And for example, like if the Commonwealth, could they go first with their opening statements and they go through their timeline, right? And if it's like, this is impossible because she was at One Meadows at 12:30, for example, like if you can go ahead and say their timeline has huge problems in opening statements to the jury, right? And mention something that's like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a problem. Then you could have the jury. It's just another way to have the jury with you, right, from the beginning to where now they're going to be viewing all the upcoming testimony in the light most favorable to the defense, right? For example, from opening statements, the Commonwealth wants the jury to be viewing everything in the light most favorable to them as they go through witness testimony. But if you're the defense, you want the jury to be viewing everything in the light most favorable to you. So that's really important context, especially given the fact that that hasn't come into evidence yet, but we know they can mention it in opening statements because they can say what the evidence will show. So yeah. But we talked about that in detail.
Please. Who's this from and who's it to?
It's from me to Matt, Nicole, and Brian.
And what does it read?
So they have to, that will come in because that's when Karen makes the voicemails. So the Commonwealth is going to get that in because she connects to Wi-Fi when she makes those voicemails. She calls John's phone and leaves his voicemail. So I would expect that's when that will come in.
Cops here again.
You were reporting to the others on this text stream that the police had arrived at your house. They were in your house with you and Carrie that you just described, correct?
Yes, I was just telling them that they were here again.
Next text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
This is from my sister, Nicole, to myself, Brian, and Matt. And Nicole says, call us after.
And what time was this?
This was 5:23.
Did you take this to mean that she wanted you to call the group after Carrie Roberts' interview and update them about that interview?
I took it as that she just wanted, to call and see what the cops said and if there was any update, any information.
Next text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
This is from Matt, and it's to myself, Nicole, and Brian.
What time is this?
This is at 5:31.
And at 5:31, what does Mr. McCabe write to the group?
This girl could write a book. Not
So I have actually a chart. Let me pull this up. A chart thing. That makes this a lot easier. I can put it in the Discord if you guys want. Where is it? Welcome, Happy Annie. Okay, I have this. I can put this in the Discord. I just have to unshare, reshare, as per usual. Is this the right thing? Yes. Okay. There it is. So these are the group chat messages. So there you have them all out, right? So let me know if you want me to put this in the Discord. I have some other things here too that I can put in the Discord. Okay, so although I think they're almost at the end of that batch of questions about these. Okay.
nonstop.
Was that in reference to Carrie Roberts having her interview with the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, it was.
And this girl is Carrie, correct?
Yes.
Welcome, Kat
Next
Randall.
text, please. Who's this from and who's it to?
This is from me to Nicole, Brian, and Matt.
What time is this text?
5:32.
And what do you write to the group?
I love it.
And this is in direct response to Matt McCabe's, your husband's text about.
So again, the part of the point is like we can skip this because we got it all in writing. Okay. The most noteworthy ones we've already heard anyway, at least from ones that were different from the first trial that stuck out to me. One was the mental hospital thing, and the other was well, actually three things. The other one was like asking about Channel 4 being there at D&E, and then the other one was the pleading thing. So, okay, mixing that. Okay, there we go.
These text messages were on a private chat, both the one between you and your sister, as well as the group chat, correct? Those are private chats, not open to the public.
Correct.
You never intended, obviously, for any of those texts to become public, correct?
I handed my phone over, so I knew all my texts would be seen.
When you were
What a dumb answer. You know what he's asking.
writing the text, when the group was chatting back and forth or texting back and forth, those were intended to be private texts between and among just the people on the text string, correct?
I just was texting my family. I wasn't thinking any more of who was going to see it.
You certainly did not expect when you were writing those texts that the defense, Ms. Karen Reed's representatives, would ever get a hold of those texts. That was not in your mind, correct?
Would never have been in my mind, no.
That is a textbook example, what we've just seen, of witnesses colluding with one another about a subject matter that's under investigation, correct? I move for instruction.
All right, jurors, disregard that comment completely. Disregard.
When we were watching this live, I thought he said move for mistrial, and I like almost lost it. But he said instruction.
That question.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Welcome you to easy. I agree. I agree with it. Approach a million times.
Correct.
I was telling them,
Okay, so he re-asks it.
May I, Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. In the text that we just saw, you were colluding with other witnesses, percipient witnesses in this case through those text messages, were you not?
I was not.
She's a
You were
complete.
organizing your statements to the police based on what you overheard and what you heard during Carrie Roberts' interview with the Massachusetts State Police, weren't you?
No, I was not.
You were reporting back to other recipient witnesses what you heard and saw during
thank
other
you.
witnesses' statements to the police.
I'm going to read this out loud for anyone who's listening. Thank you for that, Nees and Z's. By the way, that comment was made 3 hours before Karen was arrested. So I love that. Yeah, I hate to say that I don't have like the time she was arrested memorized. I appreciate y'all that have those details down pat. And thank you for noting that. If Naven is still listening, that was a follow-up on the comment about the pleading out thing and the timing of her arrest.
Carrie Roberts, correct?
I was telling them Carrie was speaking with the police.
And you told them she's telling them, quote, everything, correct?
Yes, I told them some of the opinions that she stated.
And when Mr. McCabe said she could write a book, she's going on, in other words, she's going on and on, your statement was, I love it, correct?
Yes,
And you reported that back to other witnesses who were not privy to Ms. Roberts's statements to the police, correct?
to my sister and to my brother-in-law, yes.
And then your sister asked for updates when Carrie Roberts was done, correct?
I don't know if it was in regard to updates when she was done or updates like, did they tell us anything? Is there anything new? We were still all trying to figure out what had happened.
The four of you were discussing the facts surrounding this case, not only with each other, but discussing interviews, formal police.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, is the jury likely will not learn unless the defense wants to admit it, like admit it into evidence. I mean, the jury will not learn what time Karen was arrested specifically. More, I mean, again, unless the defense wants to bring that in. So I just wanted to note that.
Interviews that you heard or overheard with another witness, weren't you?
I told them some of the things that Carrie Roberts said, yes.
And you were happy about what she said after you had created.
Okay, we're going to skip past this a little bit here. The timeline, okay. The approach again, it looks like. Or well, approaching for, I guess. Okay, so now this is about Lank. Okay, so what I thought was most noteworthy here is, I talked about this when we watched it live. It seems like it's calling into question whether or not Lexi was ever being dropped off. That's one of the things, right? Is like if of all this bit with Sergeant Lank, there are two things really stuck out to me. One was the fact that they go straight from her house to, I forget the order, but they go straight from her house to somewhere else. Basically, it's like, why would Lexi be with you? I guess we can listen to some of it, and then I'm sure I'll remember what my thought was with that. But also the other thing was the 4 minutes outside 34 Fairview.
When you talked to Lieutenant Tully on May 10th, 2024, before your testimony last year, did you tell Lieutenant Tully we were actually there to pick up her daughter? That's why we went to Michael Lank's house. That's why you went to Michael Lank's house.
For sure, needs some Z's.
I went to Michael Lank's to drop her daughter off.
And I appreciate that. I 100%. Like I felt like it was damning regardless of the timing, but 100% understandable. And as you guys have heard me say before, I try to keep two columns going in my brain. One column is what the jury has, and the other column is what the jury has and doesn't have, basically all the things, right? So I've got like an all the things column, then I've got a column of like what has come out in front of this jury, this trial. So I try to point that out just because it's important to note. It's important to keep that in mind. I know there's some people that especially care about that anyway. I think it's important to keep in mind too, although it is a lot to think about.
What did you tell Lieutenant Tully?
That I went to drop her off.
So you didn't say pick her up to him.
I don't believe so,
So
no.
if he said that, that would be another example of an incorrect report.
Sustained.
Do you remember exactly what it was that you told him during that interview?
I know that Lexi was with us at Meadows Ave and we dropped her off at Mike Lank. So if he mixed up pick up and drop off, that could have happened. But we had Lexi with us and we dropped her off there.
Okay, so you believe that may have been his mix-up, not yours.
Sustained.
Is that? I'm sorry. Do you remember exactly what it was that you told Lieutenant Tully during that interview?
I know I said that we dropped her off.
Exactly.
It was 11 days later.
Exactly.
That
He's saying exactly the point I was going to try to make here, that there would be no reason for Jen to go to Links if Carrie was just dropping off Jen because they stopped at Jen's home before Links.
actually
Right.
testified, correct?
11 days later from
After the interview, about 10, 11 days after the interview with Lieutenant Tully, that you actually testified in court about in a proceeding about this issue.
I'm sure they're going to go back and forth on this. Okay. Okay.
Records that showed that you were at Michael Lank's house on January 30th, 2022.
I was asked if I had gone to Michael Lank's house. And I had, to be honest, I had completely forgotten because those days were just a complete
Oh my God.
blur. But then I remembered that after we left Meadows Ave, we did drop her daughter off at Michael Lank's.
All right. Do you
And then I think it's 34 Fairview and then the Links.
recall
Thank
ever
you.
seeing a document, seeing something that indicated that you were actually a piece of paper, a document, a record, anything indicating that you were seen at Michael Lank's house through GPS location data forms?
Did I ever see a record of that?
Correct. The lieutenant showed,
He didn't show me a record.
That's
he just
what I
asked you
think.
He
about it.
just asked me.
That's
Did
what
he
I-
tell you during that course of that interview that he had been provided with GPS data records indicating that you
You're
went to
about
Michael Lank's house?
So,
I don't remember the specifics of what he asked, but I know
it's just so frustrating. They're about to get into it. Okay. When he can finally get into what it is that they're talking about. Okay, here we go.
January 30th to anybody?
no, to be honest, I completely forgot about it.
Move on.
You sat outside,
Yes.
possibly, correct?
I have a faint memory that I ran.
Correct?
I don't know. We had been at Meadows for a while and then we
Okay.
left, dropped Lexi off and then I went home. I
Okay.
don't know a time, maybe afternoon. I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Ending. Do it, Jackson.
Show Mr. Brennan on your way up.
I'm sorry, I asked that it be marked for identification.
Thank you.
Document back, I'll ask you a couple. A map, generally.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm just going to ask you to take a look at the document and don't describe it.
Sure.
This is where this is it. This is it, the map. Good.
Take a look at the first page and tell me if you recognize anything on that page.
I do. Yes.
What do you recognize generally about that document?
I'll see you, Council at sidebar. May I?
I knew it. I literally was thinking, you know what? This is not good for her. And I guarantee you that he's going to want to approach. And sure enough. Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Taking a look at that first page, do you recognize a location that's pinpointed on that page?
I do.
Okay, without telling me the address, what do you recognize that as being?
My house.
Okay, and do you see in the call out box in the middle of the page,
Yes.
do you see a date and time?
Yes.
What is the date and time?
It is January 30th at 12:13.
Take a look at page 2 on what's been marked for identification.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one thing. Her
Do-
fighting with every single question and needing to see these documents or not wanting to see them and all this is so going to be so blatantly obvious to the jury, right? The difference of how she answers the questions on direct and cross.
You see a location pinpointed on that page.
I do. Yes.
What do you recognize that location as being?
John O'Keefe's home.
Is that what we've talked about on Meadows?
Yes, Meadows.
Do you see a time and date for that location?
Yes, 1/30/2022 at 12:19.
At 12:19 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you can turn to page, pardon me, 4, skip over page 3 and just go straight to page 4.
Mhm.
Do you recognize something that's been pinpointed on that map as well?
Yes,
What is that? Again, don't give me the full address. What is that location that's pinpointed?
that is my house.
Okay, and do you see a date and time for that?
Yes,
location?
that's 1:30 at 5:21.
When you say 1:30, January 30th.
Sorry, January 30th, 2022 at 5:21.
Okay. Looking at page 5, do you see a location
Yes.
pinpointed on that map as well?
Yes, I do.
And what's the date and time of that location?
That is also 1/30/2022, and that is at 5:28.
Got it. Taking a look at page 6. Do you see a location pinpointed on that map?
Yes,
What is that again? What
Oh,
is that
I have a
location?
thing.
that is 1:30.
Sorry, I forgot I had this. Hold on. I just remembered it now. I have a thing. Hold on. Dude, I should have just pulled this up. I forgot I had this one. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So at home, then arriving at John O'Keefe's house, leaving John O'Keefe's house, arriving home, leaving home, arriving at the Albert's house, leaving the Albert's house, arriving at Michael Lank's house, leaving Michael Lank's house, and arriving home. There it is, right there. There you go. All right.
2022.
The location, the
Oh,
address,
I'm sorry.
And
That
that's-
is Fairview.
appear to be 34 Fairview.
Yes,
And what's the date and time?
5:36.
Taking a look at page 7.
Cat
Do you
Randall
see
died.
anything located on that, a pinpoint location on that page?
Yes,
What's the date? I'm sorry, what is that location?
that's Fairview again.
And what's the date and time?
That is 1/30/22 at 5:40.
So just to be clear, the page before was 5:36 and this page is 5:40.
Yes,
Okay.
That's the 4 minutes. I thought that was big too. The 4 minutes in front of 34 Fairview. Again, I don't think that came out in the first trial.
Driving time from 34 Fairview to Michael Lank's house consistent with about 3 or 4 minutes.
it could be with
Yeah,
like, the multiple stop
I
signs
showed that right before you
and
got
due
here.
to the weather.
Taking a look at page 9,
Yes,
do you see another pinpointed address?
I can put these in the Discord.
yes, I believe it's the same one
Okay. The same address on,
as my.
Yeah.
As Michael Lank.
okay. And what's the time, what's the date of that?
One.
And 6:28 is about 45 minutes after 5:43, give or take, correct?
Yeah.
Finally, the last page, page 10, do you see yet another pinpointed address?
I do. Yes,
Is that your address?
yes, it is.
Okay. And what's the date and time of that pinpoint?
That is 1/30/22 as well, and that is at 6:04.
And would it be safe to say that your address from Mike Lank's address, maybe 6 or 7 minute drive?
Yeah, depending. Mhm.
We were talking about what happened when you were at Mike Lank's that evening. By the way, does any of that refresh your recollection about the time that you went to Mike Lank's house?
Yes, I knew it was after Meadows and later in the day. Yes,
So closer to 5:45, 6:30, correct?
yes,
This is in January in Boston, is that right? The greater Boston area.
yes,
It's dark really early.
yes.
It was a blizzard.
The night before. Yes.
Safe to say that it was dark out.
Yeah, I
Safe to
assume.
say it was cold out.
Yes,
By the way,
blizzard was
guys,
still brewing, correct?
I think it had stopped snowing by then.
Still freezing cold.
I'm putting things in the Discord in the Karen Read thread. I'm putting the group texts, the location, where was it? The location data for Jen McCabe, text messages with Nicole, phone calls to Trevor Proctor, and probably some other things here. I'm putting them in the Discord. So there you go.
Believe so.
And your testimony is that you sat outside in a car with Carrie Roberts and Michael Lank's wife for 45 minutes.
Yes.
You actually, and I'm assuming the car was running.
Yes.
Heat had to be on full blast.
Yes.
You're dressed in winter gear
Yes.
because it's freezing out, correct?
Correct.
Definitely.
You actually got out of the car and went into the house to go to the restroom at one point.
I have a faint memory. I think I did.
We're going to go past the restroom thing. We talked about that at length on my problems with that whole thing. When we watched this live. Okay, now with Lexi.
It wasn't
All right.
an errand. It wasn't to drop anybody off. It was
So it's 4 minutes. I actually thought he said 46 minutes when we were watching this live. I think what he said was 4 to 6 minutes at 34 Fairview, because later on he says 4 and it's very clear. So,
a destination.
or
that you
are you saying 45 minutes was that at Lanks? That would have been accurate. Yeah.
went to from your house to Sergeant Lank's house on January 30th, 2022, wasn't it?
No, we went to drop off Lexi.
Was Lexi at your house?
She was with us at Meadows, and then we went to drop her off.
Right. She was never with you at your house. was she?
Here we go.
I don't remember going to my house.
So if she wasn't with you at your house, there would be no reason to drop the child off from your house to Michael Lank's house, correct?
Lexi was in the car with us, and we dropped her off at Michael Lank's. That's why we went to Officer Lank's house. Yes.
And in point of fact, you actually went from your house and did make a pit stop to 34 Fairview before you went to Michael Lank's house, didn't you?
We drove by and
Funny is on that there was no Lexi and that was made up as an excuse to do all these things. That's what I think.
stopped. Yes. Slowly stopped. Yes.
You went in the house and spoke with someone.
No, I never went in the house.
Why'd you come up to the line and just stop?
I think Carrie and I just went by to like take a look at it. We were still trying to figure everything out.
Makes no sense. Sorry, no, I don't buy that.
Stay there.
And I honestly don't think the jury will buy that either. 4 minutes is a long time, and she left that out of her story whenever she told everybody her story. They didn't have that until they got the GPS from the phone and whatnot.
46 minutes.
What is this?
I have to look at the report, but yeah, we were sitting in the car, kind of just like, oh my God, looking.
Didn't go in the house.
We didn't go in the house. No,
Nobody came outside to talk to you.
No.
You didn't speak to Nicole.
I don't believe so.
Possible.
Like I said, Carrie and I just kind of drove by and were looking at the area.
You know, it's just so funny, right? Because it's like she left out the part about the 4 minutes driving by 34 Fury, just like she left out calling Nicole at whatever time that was, 5:07 a.m. She called 34 Fairview. And just like she left out that she called Nicole after. I mean, it's like all these things, right? You know, it's just one time, okay, fine, but it's a lot, and it's always these specific things, man.
Yeah,
Hi, Kane.
And that's before you went to Michael Lank's house, correct?
that was on the way to Michael Lank's.
So in point of fact, you didn't go directly from One Meadows to Michael Lank's house.
I thought I had. I truly thought I had.
Right. Another good
My
point.
memory is not. This isn't refreshing my memory. I do not remember going by my house before Michael Lank's.
Do you remember testifying a year ago that, well, let me ask it this way. Do you remember denying a year ago that you ever been stopped by 34 Fairview?
Aha.
I don't remember that now.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at your prior testimony?
Sure.
What is your sound doing? So, and interesting that there she says, sure. Huh. Right?
Yeah.
Got a sure out of that one.
Thank you. You were ever going by 34 Fairview, correct?
No, I believe the paper says I never stopped by, but we drove by.
Oh,
And now you're saying that you did
Fuck's sake.
stop.
Stopping by and driving by meant something different to me. Stopping by, I look at it as like, then you pop in the house. Driving by is you just drive by. So we just drove by slowly and kind of looked at the scene.
And Ms. McCabe, I think you just said
Huh.
that you may be spoken with Nicole.
I didn't speak with Nicole, no. We were in the car, Carrie and I and Lexi.
You were denying that you ever spoke with
I mean-
Nicole or any other member of the Albert family or anybody at 34 Fairview. As you sit here today.
As I sit here today, I'm telling you that we slowly drove by.
So again, last question on this point. You did not, you now admit, drive from One Meadows over to Michael Lank's house directly to drop off Carrie's daughter.
My memory is we did drive from One Meadows.
oh my gosh.
I know what this
Okay.
piece of paper says. I'm telling you that just my memory is we left Meadows and went down Fairview and then went to Michael Lank's. But this paper is saying we stopped at my house first. I don't remember that.
Exactly.
But again, I was in shock.
Sorry.
So a lot of things from that day are foggy. Certain things, certain details I may have forgotten.
And
I
you're,
mean, the thing is right. Like, if the jury, even though again they won't have known what she was like at the first trial, if it's clear because of her the way she's answering these questions differently on direct and cross, and from numerous other things that she's been prepped the fuck out of, even though she's answering better than last time, although that's a really low bar, does this actually in a way make her look worse? You know, like that the Commonwealth like had to treat her like she, what's the right, like they had to like program her to answer these questions because she's that much of a disaster.
All of your testimony over the last several
Hi,
days
honey.
is based on that memory that you just described to these jurors.
I don't
Right.
know what you're
There are
talking
certain things I'll never forget, correct?
Oh, that one was really annoying. Hold on, let me hear that again.
Details I may have forgotten.
And all of your testimony over the last several days is based on that memory that you just described to these jurors, correct?
There are certain things I'll never forget, correct?
It's just so, that's just so awful. It's just non-responsive. It's just, ugh.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You may, depending upon your answer, depending upon what you just answered, you may or may not remember. But let's see.
Okay.
Nice that he says that.
Isn't it true that at 12:13 p.m. you left 12 Country Lane on January 30th, 2022?
Yes, according to this, yes.
Isn't it true that at 12:19 you arrived at One Meadows, the O'Keefe residence?
According to this, yes.
Are you asking her regarding?
I'm asking.
Oh
her
my
memory,
God,
not
Judge
according to the
Bell.
document.
My
Your
memory.
What a pause, right? Look at that. She didn't ask for clarification. Breenan didn't ask for clarification, but Judge Bev just jumps right on in. Wow, that is a pause. Judge Bev just jumps right on in because
I don't remember
she's now a party to this case, apparently.
exact times.
Thank you. Isn't it true, Ms. McCabe, that at 5:12 p.m. you left One Meadows, which is the O'Keefe residence, 5:12 in the evening?
That I don't remember the times that I left.
Isn't it true that at 5:21 you arrived back at your address on Country Lane?
I do not remember that.
Isn't it true that at 5:28, 7 minutes later, you actually left your address on Country Lane?
Again, I don't remember going by my house.
Isn't it true that at 5:36 you arrived at 34 Fairview and stayed for at least 4 minutes?
I know we drove by.
Isn't it
Drove by. It took 4 minutes.
true that at 5:40
Crazy.
they're just thereafter?
Remember, the 4 minutes is at 34 Fairview. It's not 4 minutes like there and back. It's like 4 minutes at the address is not, sorry. I don't think it's even possible in a car to go slow enough to where you could drive at a speed in front of one place where it would take 4 minutes. Unless it's like a huge mansion.
You left 34 Fairview.
I know we left and went to Mike Lank's.
And isn't it true at 5:43 you arrived on that Oakdale Road address at Sergeant Lank's house?
Not sure of the exact time, but yes, we did go to Sergeant Lank's house.
And isn't it true that at 6:28, almost 45 minutes later, actually a little better than 45 minutes later, you left that address at Michael Lank's house and drove back to your house directly?
After leaving Mike Lank's, I went home, correct?
And you arrived at your house at 6:34, correct?
According to the paper.
What about according to your memory?
I don't remember exact times.
Wow. So the paper's wrong. She doesn't remember. So where are we left with here?
Mr. Jackson, is this a good place to take a break?
is.
Do
I'm
you have
about
a
to shift
while more?
gears.
Okay. All right, juries, we will take our morning recess.
Okay.
15, 20 minutes, we'll see you back. Ms. McCabe, again, if you just go forward.
That you had
And we're back like a herd of turtles. Okay.
You've indicated on direct examination and earlier on cross-examination that you had multiple phone calls to Mr. O'Keefe in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
The butt dial.
Those phone calls ranged from about 12:14 a.m. until about 12:50 a.m., correct?
There was a call at 12:14 and then at 12:18.
I'm sorry, I'm bracketing it. The
Oh,
calls
I
were between,
apologize.
that's okay, 12:14 all the way to about 12:50, correct?
Are you saying 15?
50,
Oh,
50.
50. Oh, sorry, I apologize.
You can look back on that one.
Yes.
Okay.
You called John O'Keefe at 12:14 and 31 seconds, lasting about 49 seconds, and that call was answered, correct?
Yes.
And you see that reflected in Exhibit 26, is that right?
Yes.
Going in reverse chronological order on this exhibit, you also see a call at 12:18 and 47 seconds, wherein John O'Keefe calls your phone lasting about 36 seconds. Is that right?
Yes.
You know that call was answered, even though it says, it says unknown in the document, correct?
It does say unknown. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, fifth column over. That's where it says unknown.
Yes.
But it also indicates that call lasted 36 seconds, so you know it was answered.
I don't know from this record it was answered, but I know from my memory that I spoke to him a second time. Yes.
You also made a call, moving up to the page before this, starting at the bottom of the page, at 12:29 and 44 seconds. There's a call from you to John O'Keefe's phone lasting 7 seconds, correct?
That's what it says.
And the record indicates that it was an answered phone call, correct?
According to the record, it was answered, but I never spoke to him.
You deny speaking to John O'Keefe at 12:29 and 44 seconds.
Yes, I never spoke to him after 12:18.
Okay. Moving up, 12:41 and 10 seconds. There was a call from you to John O'Keefe's phone indicating that was missed. You see where it says missed?
I do.
12:41 and 59 seconds. There was another call from your phone to John's phone, and that was also indicated as missed. Correct?
Correct.
12:43, 19 seconds. You called John O'Keefe. That was a missed call.
Correct.
12:46 and 16 seconds. You called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call.
Correct.
12:47 and 52 seconds. You called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
12:47 and 52 seconds.
Yes.
At 12:50 and 37 seconds, you called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call as well.
Yes.
Ms. McCabe, there's 7 calls that you indicate you made to John O'Keefe's phone and that were missed. Is that right?
According to this record, yes, they were
And
calls
that
missed.
comports with your memory, correct? You indicated that you had called him multiple times that morning and there were missed calls, right?
I called him, but I also think that some of the calls I might have done inadvertently.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second. My question is, that comports with your memory that there were several calls, according to the records, there were several calls made to John O'Keefe's phone, including 2 calls that you say you spoke to him, 12:14 and 12:18.
I spoke to him at 12:14 and 12:18, yes.
But you indicate every single call after that was missed, and you deny making those calls.
I'm not denying it, I just don't remember.
You've previously given explanation for what those calls were, these 7 calls that were missed between about 12:29 and about 12:50. That's 19 minutes. You'll agree, correct?
Yes.
If you divide 19 by 7, that's about every 2.5 minutes or 2.7 minutes, your phone is calling John O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Correct.
You previously explained what you attribute to those phone calls. Is that right?
Yes.
What's your explanation?
I think I was going back and forth to the door. I was texting him. I think I put my phone in my pocket. I think I inadvertently maybe have called him.
What did you call it at the last hearing?
The weasel on this one, because it's like non-responsive, but it's like she's not answering. She knows, dude, I can't with her.
Calling John O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Correct.
You previously explained what you attribute to those phone calls. Is that right?
Oh yeah, she has it on the first day too.
What's your explanation?
I think I was going back and forth to the door. I was texting him. I think I put my phone in my pocket. I think I inadvertently maybe have called him.
What did you call it at the last hearing?
I believe I called it a butt dial.
Did you watch her look over there for an objection and they didn't give her one? Ah, ha, ha, ha. Watch.
Door. I was texting him. I think I put my phone in my pocket. I think I inadvertently maybe have called him.
What did you call it at the last hearing?
She looks over, he doesn't object, so she has to answer. So now she looks at the jury and smiles and like tries to be like, haha, isn't that so funny? Dude.
I believe I called it a butt dial.
LOL. Oh,
And it's not just one butt dial,
Yeah.
correct?
It could be multiple, yes.
7 butt dials in the course of 19 minutes, less than 20 minutes, correct?
That evening, I wasn't paying attention to butt dials or calls. I was going back and forth, listening to music, being with family. So if I inadvertently called his phone, I did.
Not inadvertently called him once,
yeah.
7 times,
Yeah.
correct? According to you.
Yeah.
According to the record.
According
And we
to
only
the
know
record,
about the
are you disputing the cell phone record? This is the thing. In her testimony, okay, says that everything has to be wrong, not just her previous statements, not just law enforcement's reports, but now we have to include the GPS data, the cell phone records, the maps, literally everything. But what she says on the stand right now, is the only truth. And the thing is that, again, if you're a juror, right? I think that some of that it can be plausible. You can see it, you can give her the benefit of the doubt. But here's the thing. I don't see how any juror, when they look at how she's disputing literally things that are not really all that disputable, the Hobbs song search, that's in a different category, but things like just the basic cell phone records, right? The GPS, it's like when you're disputing, when you're fighting all of it, like when you're Jen and you're fighting all of it, it strains credulity, as I always say, you know what I mean?
These calls, because you're looking at an extraction of John O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Correct. But I also turned over my phone, so you could have gotten all of that off of my phone as well.
And you're well aware that an extraction was done on your phone and not one of those butt dials appears on your phone extraction, correct? Objection.
Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of that.
Next question.
Weren't you confronted with that at the last hearing a year ago? Whether or not those phone calls actually exist on your phone logs? Objection.
Do you remember that?
I remember you asking previously, yes.
Non-responsive. It wasn't about did he ask it, did she answer it, dude?
When you dial somebody by mistake, it requires several steps, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. A lot of times I just put my phone down and the next thing I know.
It's where she pretends not to know how cell phones work. Again, and dude, we're going to get to it. While we're on this topic, right, about straining credulity, the part when he's like asking about opening up a browser and using a search engine, and she's like acts like she doesn't know what that shit is. I don't think a juror is going to buy that. Maybe if you were like in your 80s, right? But honestly, this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, okay, fine. I don't know that I would have even really been able to articulate what the difference between a browser and a search engine. These days, though, I don't buy it. I don't think a juror is going to buy it.
I think it's very common
And it was unnecessary, right? It was just weaseling for no reason there, because she could have actually answered the question and it would have been simple. Safari is a browser. It wouldn't kill you to say that, right? In fact, you might earn some credibility. Anyway,
butt dials.
So you have an iPhone, is that right? Or had an iPhone?
I do, yes.
And that iPhone required a biometric or a passcode to get into the open phone. It's not open right now, right?
It's not open, correct.
And your phone required some sort of biometric interaction with the phone, otherwise it's Face ID. Or you put in a code, correct?
Yes, or I could have been texting, and then after I texted, the phone was open, and I could have accidentally called John. That happens to me all the time.
Also requires you to open the phone app.
Stop.
For instance, if you're texting, you're in the text app.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm not. I'd have to sit and look at it.
Well, make phone calls.
Again, the jury's not going to believe this. Literally, every iPhone has iMessage and then the phone app or whatever. She needs to concede some of these points that are just so basic, because it's too much, man.
Phone app, correct? For instance, if you're texting, you're in the text app. Is that right?
Actually, I'm not. I'd have to sit and look at it.
Well, no.
No, you don't. Literally, that's a dumb answer.
Make phone calls.
Every day. Every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Hundreds of times a day, right?
Not hundreds.
Dozens of times a day.
Yeah.
You have to open the phone app to make a phone call. You can't call somebody from the texting app, right? Is that right?
I'm not sure. I don't know what to tell you.
There's a list of apps at the bottom of the phone.
Yes.
Messages.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes, and maybe
And
I
that's
accidentally hit the
So-
last thing, the last call. Like,
Getting more creative with it. Ugh.
There's a list of apps at the bottom of the phone.
yes,
Messages.
Mhm.
Oh, right.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
yes, and maybe
And
I
that's-
accidentally hit the
So-
last thing, the last call. Like, since I had talked to John,
However, at this point,
Objection, speculation. You're speculating on yourself.
I'm going to instruct the witness to answer my question.
I
Yeah.
believe she is. Go ahead and finish.
Ugh.
Okay.
Them? For fuck's sake. It is getting heated. 100%. And the thing is like, when you really watch it, right, you can see these moments where she's really losing it. Again, for the jury that didn't see her last time, they're going to notice it, right? Because it was harder for some people, including myself, right? A lot of us who were like, oh, this is nothing compared to last time. But if you really pay attention, right? And again, we know they're in this smaller courtroom so they can be up close and personal to her lovely face. So Kat's going to go get his blood pressure meds. Yeah. good thinking.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
It's a lot.
Jumping the gun.
So let me, Ms. McCabe, answer only the question that's being asked of you, okay?
Ms. McCabe, you're aware that when
Hey,
you're
Beth, can you try to stay out of it? You're a judge. Stop it.
messaging app, you have to do something else volitionally to open.
Bev is just like holding Jen's hand through this whole thing, even though she's been coached to hell and back.
the phone app, correct?
Correct.
It's touch the phone, is that right?
Yes.
That would open a separate app, correct?
Correct.
Then, once that phone app is open, then you have to choose the person to call, correct?
Yes. Sometimes the last dialed.
Right.
Yeah.
And that happens to be the last dial. Scroll through, pick a person, make one tap, and that calls the person and initiates the call, correct?
That is one way. Yes.
But if you get out of the app, I'm sorry, if you close your phone, hit the lock button after a text message, none of that can happen without you having to open the phone and engage the phone additionally, correct?
Mhm.
If you hit the button to lock it, yes.
Right. So
Put out a
you
lock.
indicated that these are all missed calls. Is that right?
That's what the record show. Yes.
In addition to a missed call, you had missed calls before.
Why can't she just say yes? Saying yes for a couple times would not kill her here, guys.
Received a missed call and you make calls that were missed. Is that right?
Yes.
When you make a call that's missed, it only goes to voicemail, does it not?
It does. Yes.
So then you have to do something additional with that call. Push the end button, correct?
Correct.
Otherwise, voicemails just go on forever.
It was at a
They
weird.
go on for 4 minutes.
Was it a weird time? Was it a weird time?
I don't know how long voicemails go for.
So if you had missed calls, 7 missed calls, that's at least 14 interactions, double it, because you got to make the call, then you got to end the call. 14 interactions with your phone for a single missed call.
One
I'm sorry,
missed
for
call.
7 missed calls.
It could be. Yes.
And your testimony is you don't remember making a single one of those calls to John O'Keefe between 12:29 and 12:50, correct?
I do not remember making those calls. No.
As you sit here, do you deny making those calls between 12:29 and 12:50 to John O'Keefe?
Oh, I'm not denying that. No.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about January 29th, a little further on in the morning after you got home from 34 Fairview. Approximately what time did you get home?
I'm not sure. Maybe around 11:30, 12. I'm not sure.
11:30 or 12?
It could be 11. Are you talking about? I'm confused. Are you talking about?
Let me rephrase the question.
Okay. Sorry.
On the night of the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, when you left Fairview.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What
Okay.
time did you get home today?
It was after 2, I believe. I'm not positive.
You went upstairs, is that right?
Yes.
You began to engage with your phone at
Yes.
that time. What application did you open up on your phone once you got upstairs?
It could have been Hockomock Sports.
I'm sorry, I'm backing up foundationally. What application on the phone? Was it Safari?
Oh, okay. Yes. I think. Yes.
You use Safari as your browser?
I'm not sure what I used.
You opened up a search engine as well within that browser, did you not?
I'm not. I just know I Googled Hockomock Sports, I believe. I'm not sure what app I opened or how I went about it.
So Google is a search engine. You use
Okay.
Google.
Possibly. I mean, that's just an expression, but I'm not. If you could show my record, I'm not sure what app I opened
Well,
or
Ms.
what.
McCabe, you've seen this record
This
many, many times
This whole
about
thing.
that search early in the morning hours, correct? You know that it was a Google search.
It was Google. Okay, it was a
Okay.
Google search.
Okay. So
Sandra, I can see you. I did not catch it, Fender. Are you visible? Yeah, you're visible. Is that what you're asking? Oh yeah, no, it's awful. And the thing is, I commented on this again when we watched it live, but like it's very prejudicial to the defense. That's one of the things, because basically what it makes it seem like is it makes it seem like Jackson's the problem and not Jen. It blew my mind. I talked about it at length when we watched it live because I was like, this is crazy. Normally judges go out of their way to do the opposite, to make it seem like even if something is the defense's fault, for example, normally judges go out of their way to be like, it was my fault, jury. I'm the reason why such and such thing, and it's just oh God.
Google search
I can see you.
using the Safari app.
Okay.
You indicated that you were Google searching Hockomock Sports and something about Ozone Sports or
It
Ozone
was
basketball.
Yes.
What time was it that you did that Google search?
It was when I was home up in bed. I don't have an exact time.
About 2:27 a.m., correct?
I'd have to look at a record. I don't recall
You
off the top of
certainly
my
recall
head.
that time frame, don't you?
I know I was home and I Googled that, but I don't remember the exact time.
You do recognize 2:27 a.m.
I do recognize it, but it's not from me remembering it from that night specifically. It's from me learning afterwards.
And what you learned afterwards was there was a Google search at 2:27 a.m., right? I mean, that's a layup, to use a basketball term, right?
There's a record, I think, of one.
Right. The record is of a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone.
Oh my God.
Oh, is that right?
I'm not a phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
You're well aware. You don't have to be a phone expert to know that there was a Google search on.
I mean, exactly. And this is another one of those things that she does where it's like, come on, Jen. The jury must have been so annoyed. I saw somewhere that the jury was like, that I guess somebody in the gallery reported that the jury was like, I don't remember what they said specifically, maybe rolling their eyes or like, in other words, it seemed like the jury was not buying her bullshit. That was what somebody said. Take it with a grain of salt. It might have been on the Karen Reed Reddit thing, but anyway, that's what somebody said.
Of one.
Right. The record is of a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
You're well aware. You don't have to be a phone expert to know
This is dumb.
that there was a Google search on your phone recovered at 2:27 in the morning. You know that. You've been told that. You've seen it. You've been asked about it dozens of times, haven't you?
I have been asked about it dozens of times. Yes.
So
Oh.
let's set the foundation. There was a Google search on your phone
You just
at
make
2:27 a.m., correct?
Which Google search are you referring to?
It doesn't matter, Ms.
so
McCabe.
hard and not.
Well, I know I did Ozone and I did Hockomock Sports,
And I didn't ask
and
you
those
that.
were the only two things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, how do you even fucking miss? I don't remember anything, but I remember everything so clearly. And it's, dude, I can't.
But it dozens of times. Yes.
So let's set the foundation. There was a Google search on your phone at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Which Google search are you referring to?
It doesn't matter, Ms. McCabe.
Well, I know I did Ozone and I did Hockomock Sports,
And I didn't ask
and
you
those
that.
were the
Just so, this is so defensive, right? This is so defensive of her.
only two things that I Googled.
I didn't ask you what you Googled.
Because like, dude, it's like, here's the thing. Her answers show that she knows there's an issue surrounding this. So then it doesn't make sense if she's like, oh, I don't know what you're referencing. What thing are you referencing? What times are you referencing? When like, clearly, you know, there's an issue here. You can't have it both ways.
I haven't gotten there yet. We're going to get there. I've asked you, was there a Google search, 2:27 a.m. on your phone?
If you want to show me a report,
Sure.
okay.
You don't remember, as you said, you don't remember that.
I don't.
You have no record. You have nothing in your mind about a Google search at 2:27 a.m. That's what you're testifying to in front of this jury right now.
Are you asking me if I made a Google search at 2:27?
Yes.
I don't know what time I was searching for Hockomock Sports and Ozone. I have no idea what time that was.
You're well aware that your records have been pulled, correct?
Yes, they have.
You've been confronted with those records many times, haven't you?
I've been asked by you. Yes.
And by others, right?
Yes.
I mean, the police have asked you about it. You've been interviewed about it.
I've been asked by you.
And Mr. Lally,
Yeah, Mr. Lally asked about it. Yes,
every time you're asked, it's about a Google search at 2:27 a.m. That's all I'm asking.
it is, but it's not one that I remember doing or making or did. It's not one I did. It's just one that is in a record that was misread.
Are you denying that you made a Google search at 2:27 a.m.?
If you could show me this Google search,
Oh my God.
I'd appreciate it.
I have a moment.
Yes. And then I think they have to take another break. Yep. Yep. Do they actually go break, like full on break? I guess not.
Found the paper. Thank you for your patience, Your Honor, and Ms. McCabe. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
You indicated you wanted to see a record, Ms. McCabe. Did you see a record that indicated a Google search? Not what the contents of the Google search is, but there was a Google search.
I just saw a Celebrite record. Yes.
And did you see the time of the Google search?
On that record. Yes.
Is it 2:27 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, you will agree that there was a Google search done, and now I'm going to ask about the content of Hoslong to Die in Cold, correct?
That was done in the morning at the request of Miss
Ms.
Reed.
McCabe, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a yes or no question. Did you understand my question?
Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
did that record indicate that there was a search at some point done, at some point, for Housekeeping to Diane Cole?
I object to her reading the record. I'll
So was there a search on that at some point?
On that paper, was there a search that said that? Is that the question?
Let's start with that.
Yes. Yeah, there was.
Okay, now let me ask you a different question. You Google searched the phrase Housekeeping to Diane Cole, yes or no?
Yes.
On January 29th, correct?
Yes.
So you agree that you were on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't.
Okay, and you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone, Housekeeping to Diane Cole,
The
is that
things
right?
she completely doesn't remember doing are all the things that are like the most damning for her, right? Calling Nicole Albert, going to 34 Fairview, making this. I mean, again, God, ugh.
Yes. After
Even if you leave out all of her changes in testimony, you just look at all the things that she so conveniently doesn't remember doing, right? And then the things she remembers with very definitive testimony in her mind right now as she's testifying. It's like, even if you just look at that, it's like, dude, again, it just strains credulity, man.
we found John O'Keefe.
Now you claim that that was at 6:23 and at 6:24 in the morning, two iterations of how long to die in the cold. Housekeeping to die in cold, how long TI die in CIKD, correct?
I'm not claiming it. It's the truth is what happened.
You're testifying to that.
Yes, I am.
You also testified that at the time you Google searched those phrases, it was Karen Reed screaming and yelling at you, shaking you to Google hypothermia, correct?
She was pulling on my sleeve.
Is that
Yes.
yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You have discussed this Google search and the issue of the hypothermia with Carrie Roberts, correct?
I told her in the days following.
You discussed it? Or no?
Yes.
You discussed it in the days following January 29th, correct?
Yes.
You discussed it before her testimony at the grand jury, correct?
We discussed it after. We don't talk about what we're going to say before testifying or anything like
in
that.
the 3 months between this incident and the testimony by both you and Ms. Roberts, you two did not discuss this hypothermia issue?
It wasn't an issue. It was just something she said, but we don't discuss it every day. There's no need to.
I didn't ask you to discuss it every day. I asked you, did you ever discuss it?
Originally, yes, we did discuss it in the first days following all of
And
this.
that would have been before either one of you testified at the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And we know that you were with her during her, just before her testimony at the grand jury. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're certainly aware that at the grand jury, that in prior testimony, Carrie Roberts corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded to Google hypothermia.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Are you aware that Carrie Roberts, well, let me ask it a different way. Have you and Carrie Roberts ever discussed the fact that she corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded that you Google hypothermia?
No.
She ever told you that?
No.
Did you ever ask her that?
No.
Did you discuss your statement that Karen Reed was the one that demanded that search?
Karen Reed did ask me to do the search. Yes.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. Did you and Carrie Roberts discuss that?
Yes, we've talked about that.
Are you aware that last week Carrie Roberts denied hearing that statement?
Oh boy.
Sustained.
Have you been told, have you been updated that last week Carrie Roberts denied ever having heard that statement?
Sustained.
May we approach?
Yes.
Mortimer.
Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Okay, so now they're going to get into the clips.
This case, correct?
I'm not sure what.
Let me back it up a second. Okay.
You've reviewed the
Little
Video
live wagon. That's a good one.
from the dash cam out at the scene, correct?
We love that.
I've seen it. Yes.
You're aware that there is no video showing my client demanding a Google search anywhere in this case, correct?
I'm not sure what what cameras were
Oh
where.
my God.
You're aware that there's no audio of my client demanding a Google search, correct?
Correct.
You're unaware of any witness who can corroborate your statement that my client demanded a Google search. Any witness at all.
It was just the two of us. She had sent Carrie off.
So of course, Carrie Roberts is not such corroborating witness. Is that right? At least you understand that.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Carrie Roberts is not a corroborating witness for you. You understand that? You just said that.
Yes, Carrie, I don't believe heard it. She
So
was
it's-
sent off.
So it's your word and your word only, Ms. McCabe, that my client demanded a Google search. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McCabe, you were with Carrie Roberts just before her grand jury testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
You had been with her to create a timeline of a version of events that occurred, correct?
I wouldn't say a version of events. We each put down what we remembered.
She saw what you put down. You saw what she put down.
Yes.
And you compared and contrasted those with each other to create that timeline, correct?
No, we didn't compare and contrast. I said, she called me, she said this, then Carrie, and someone was writing it down for us.
That would be your sister, who?
It was my sister, yes.
Which sister?
My sister, Denise
What's your last name?
Galvin.
She here?
She is here, yes.
Where is she?
She's sitting over there.
Can you point to her and describe what she's wearing?
Sure, she's over there in the back with a striped shirt on.
Between the gentleman in the purple and the gentleman in the black?
Yes.
So she witnessed this timeline being prepared, correct?
She wrote the timeline, yes.
And then you've spoken to Ms. Roberts several times about this case
Yes.
and about your perceptions of this case, correct?
We talk about what happened and the aftermath of this case. We don't talk about the specific details as much as we talk about the aftermath of everything.
Ms. McCabe, the fact is you instructed Carrie Roberts to say that she heard that Google hypothermia statement from my client before she testified
That's
at the
funny.
grand jury, didn't you?
No, absolutely not. I never instructed her to do anything.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I
Ms.
don't need.
McCabe,
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
so you're the only person saying that, though.
Yes, and I stand by that 110%.
And the reason that you wanted another witness to back up that statement is because you knew that that Google search for Hosselong to die in cold points a very uncomfortable finger right toward you, correct?
I never did that search at 227. I never needed to instruct somebody. No, I'm sorry.
There's that apology again. Has someone told you that you need to apologize when there's an uncomfortable
Okay.
question that you don't want to answer?
No.
Have you discussed this with anybody?
No, and that's not an uncomfortable question. I'm fine to answer it.
How many times did you say, I apologize yesterday across examination?
I didn't count.
Probably more than 15, right?
I have no idea.
Oh, so I loved this question, but then I was like, fuck. Here's the thing. I think it was definitely more than 15, in my opinion. And I actually meant to go back and count. I mean, that would have been a whole thing. But here's the thing. The only thing I wish is that I wish he had gone back and counted and could give an exact answer. Because A, if you're going to say how many times did you say it and you don't know the answer, like that would have been the only thing that would have made it even better. And I think it was way more than 15. But he's guessing, right? It would have been, and I will tell you what, I've seen attorneys do this with things. And one example I can give you, Jose Baez. There's been times where he's like, do you know how many times you said such and such thing? Da-da. And they're like, no. And he's like 112. Like he went through and got the number. And it is, and we've seen actually Georgia Kappelman, I believe also, she did that. Georgia Kappelman did that with Charlie Adelson with the number of times he said extortion. That's another one. And I think that was one where it was like over 120 times. So I just wish he'd gone and or had, it could have been anybody, right? Had an assistant to it or whatever. Because that's powerful when you have the answer. I mean, it still was powerful, but I was expecting the answer. That's all.
I didn't count.
Probably more than 15, right?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to answer the questions and be truthful as I can.
And you're aware that the Celebrite extraction that was done on your phone determined that of the three searches, 2:27 a.m., 6:23 a.m., 6:24 a.m., only one of them was recorded as deleted, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever been confronted with having deleted a Google search off your phone? You ever been asked that?
Yes, by you.
Do you deny that you deleted a Google search off your phone?
I never deleted a Google search off my phone.
So you
Never
deny
did that. I deny it. Yes.
that you ever deleted a Google search?
Yes. I never made the search.
I'd like to move back to the time of about 6:03 in the morning.
I never made the search. Interesting.
Ms.
That
McCabe,
was interesting.
when
That was interesting.
you, along with Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed, approached 34 Fairview. This is Exhibit 4.
Correction,
It's been
right?
previously entered into evidence. I think you've seen part of this exhibit. Do you recall, before we get to the exhibit, do you recall my client when the first officer on scene, do you know his name, by the way?
I believe it was Officer Seraph.
When Officer Seraph approached, he asked the question, what happened? Something like that. Open-ended question. Do you remember that?
I don't remember what he specifically said.
Do you remember my client a few seconds later saying, my boyfriend, I left him.
Love it.
He never came home.
I don't remember the specifics of what was said.
So
Your Honor, if we could, I would ask that we queue up Exhibit 4 for the jurors at runtime 420.
So this part, she can't hear it right. I thought one of the more important things about watching these clips was the part where, you know, potentially she turns her back on the gurney. I don't know. It's hard to make out what's going on. It could be that there was something. It seems like he had a point here, and it's like, I don't know if it's just me missing it. The part about the person being in charge, right? Oh, right. It seems like he was trying to show that she was talking to law enforcement the whole time. Let's watch a little bit of this so you guys can let me know. What did you think Jackson was trying to suggest to the jury, or what was his point he wanted to make here?
In the scenario between and among the three of you, Ms. Reed and Ms. Roberts.
Yes, yes.
Not you, correct?
No.
You were just sort of along for the ride, assisting how you could, correct?
I was trying to help Miss Reed and find John O'Keefe.
If we could play a clip starting at, and I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, to take a look at several clips. The first one starting at 6:21 runtime to 7:41. It's just over a minute. With the court's permission?
Yes.
You pause this. Do you recognize the three individuals in the foreground of this video?
I do, yes.
Can you start from left to right and describe to the jurors who we're looking at?
I believe that's me in the black coat. To the right of me is Miss Roberts, and on the other side of the car is Miss Reed.
Miss Roberts has, just to distinguish, Miss Roberts seemed to have fur on her hood where you did not.
Yes.
If you could go ahead and play that, please. Pause it, please. Can you see who it appears you're talking to at that point?
I don't know who that is, no.
Go ahead and play it. Pause it. Did it appear that you're engaged in conversation with that person while Miss Roberts is attending to something in the truck and Miss Reed is running back and forth?
Yes, I was speaking to whoever that was.
Do you believe that was a police officer?
I believe, yes.
Go ahead and play it.
We're going to go forward a little bit. Again, I don't really know. Some of these are kind of lengthy, and I don't really know if there's a whole lot.
Could you see did it appear that you were engaged in conversation with that other person?
Yes.
When that other person
I mean, I
walked away,
guess
could you
what
see his jacket?
I guess what it is trying to prove that it was Jen who was in charge and not Carrie, maybe? I don't know.
I couldn't.
So who looks most like she is taking charge?
There we
You or
go.
Carrie Roberts?
Okay.
Exactly.
Sustain.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one controlling the narrative, at least with law enforcement at that point?
Sustain.
I will be honest. I find this to be a bit of a stretch. Let me know what you guys think.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one engaging in conversation with law enforcement while Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed are otherwise occupied?
I am speaking with law enforcement, yes.
Can we move to runtime 8:56?
That's a good thought, Kelly, that there could be law
Pause
enforcement testimony later on that says.
Can you see
Okay.
yourself in that video?
I can, yes.
Which person
I
are
love
you?
y'all's ideas.
I'm in the far right.
I love y'all's
Speaking
ideas.
to someone?
Yes.
Who's that you're speaking to?
I can't make it out, but it looks like a police officer, possibly.
And Ms. Roberts is directly in the middle of the screen, is that right?
I thought that was Miss Reed, but I could be wrong.
Let's go ahead and play it. And at 9:26, you'll stop, please. In that video clip, who among the three of you appear to be most engaged with law enforcement at that time?
Can you tell? Can you answer that, Ms. Reed? Can you answer that, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I can. I was speaking to police officers. Yes, I was trying to help them.
Second time she
Can we
called.
go to runtime 10:49? This will be from 10:49 to 11:55, Mr. Wolk. Can you pause it? Who is it that's just gesticulating in the video?
That is me.
We'll go and play it.
Gesticulating is a weird word to use there. I feel like I don't like that word though, personally.
Did you see yourself in that video, that clip, about a minute long clip?
Yes, I did.
Who among the three of you appeared to be most engaged with law enforcement in that clip?
I was.
Getting to the best
Runtime
part
2022.
here in a second.
Mr. Wolk?
I have one call.
Stop it. Do you see yourself in that video?
I do, yes.
You just walked in from frame right,
Yes.
from frame right going left?
Yes, behind Ms. Roberts.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's you right in the middle of the screen?
Yes, it is.
And Ms. Roberts had already run through, went to her SUV, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and play. This is about a 2-minute clip for the court's edification.
All right.
You don't
And
need
this
to
is the
watch
last
all 2 minutes. We're going to get to the question at the end.
Ms. McCabe, who was most engaged in that clip with law enforcement? Between
was.
among you and Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed.
I was.
You noticed when Mr. O'Keefe was placed on the gurney in a prior clip and moved past you,
Finish
correct?
time.
Yes.
Did you notice what your reaction was when that gurney passed you?
I didn't know.
Did you see that you turned your back completely to Mr. O'Keefe as he passed by?
If that happened, it wasn't on purpose.
Ms. McCabe, when you got to the scene, we can take that down. When you got to the scene at 6:03 in the morning, you immediately recognized, did you not, that this was an emergency situation, high intensity emergency situation, correct?
I knew it was an emergency situation. Yes.
As a matter of fact, a man's life was in grave danger. You knew that.
Yes, I did.
And this is someone that was a friend of yours, correct?
Yes, he was a dear friend.
Not just a friend, but a police officer who was laying, as far as you knew, dying in the snow. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that you needed to get immediate medical attention, emergency medical attention to him as quickly as you possibly could. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that minutes counted, right?
Yes.
You knew that seconds counted, correct?
Correct.
This man was grasping, as far as you knew, grasping and clinging to life at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
That's why you called 911, to get emergency personnel who were trained in CPR and life-saving measures to the scene, to the gentleman, to Mr. O'Keefe, as quickly as you possibly could, correct?
Yes.
You called 911 at about 6:03 and 35 seconds. Is that right? I don't expect you to know down to the second, but it was about a couple of minutes after 6.
Right after, yeah, we found him. Yes.
And you're aware from the dash cam that Officer Seraph got there about 6:10, almost on the nose, right?
Didn't pay attention to the time.
You'll agree with me that it was about 6.5 minutes or so between the time you called 911 and the time Officer Seraph got there. Is that right?
If that's what the dash cam says, yes.
On that 911 call, you referred to John O'Keefe as a man passed out in the snow.
Yes.
You didn't say, this is my friend.
I needed to get, like you said, emergency there. So
Did
I
you
wasn't
say,
going to
"This is
give
my
a
friend"?
I wasn't going to give a description and say my friend is in the snow. I was going to give them the information that I thought was the most important at the time.
Did
And
you say his name?
I just said a man because that was the most important identifying.
You didn't say John.
Eventually in the 911, I do say his name.
You didn't initially say O'Keefe, correct?
No, none of that matters. It was a man in the snow and I
you didn't
wanted
say-
help there.
And you didn't say he's a Boston police officer or an off-duty police officer.
Again, a man needed help.
Yes or no? Did you
No,
say that?
I didn't.
Do you think that might, yes or no? Do you think that might have sped things up if they knew, if the 911 operator knew that this was a fallen officer, a fellow officer?
I think 911 comes to everyone equally. I don't think they would have.
Do you think that might have been something important to relay to the 911 officials?
I don't know.
You even asked by the 911 operator, does anybody know CPR? And your answer was no, correct?
I'd have to listen to it to remember my exact answers.
But it was basically in the negative. No, we're not professionals. We're just out here doing the best we can, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
You didn't believe Karen Reed knew CPR.
I didn't know. I don't think I answered that question. I don't think it
You
was
didn't-
asked.
You didn't know if Carrie Roberts knew CPR, correct?
I didn't know if they knew CPR, correct?
And none of you were paramedics.
Was asked. We
No.
went.
None of you were first responders.
No.
None of you were trained in emergency life-saving techniques in any way, correct?
Correct.
I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mhm.
On all of Fairview, the entire road between Chapman and Cedar Crest, can you think of any person on that road who might have had life-saving techniques trained into them? First responder, someone who knew how to deal with someone in distress, someone with high skill level training. Do you think of anyone on Fairview who had that kind of training?
Can I now or did I then? Which are you asking?
Did you then?
No, then my focus was on John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me narrow the focus. How about on the property? How about at 34 Fairview? Could you think of anyone that was a first responder who would have life-saving training, life-saving technique training under his belt?
Yes, my brother-in-law, Brian Albert.
And you didn't go in the house, did you?
No, I did not.
When you arrived at the scene, you didn't go in? Not until much later, correct?
Our focus was John.
You knew that Brian Albert was inside the house. You'd just been with him hours earlier, correct?
Yes.
You knew that his window was 30 feet away. You were staring at it. You could look at it if you wanted to, correct?
It's off to an angle.
And you didn't go in the house then either.
I did not know.
You knew that John O'Keefe was clinging to life during those precious minutes and seconds. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And you also knew that Brian Albert, your brother-in-law, was a first responder trained to deal with people in that kind of distress, correct?
In that moment, my only thoughts were John and everything we could do for John.
And you knew that there were warm blankets inside the house. Is that right?
I did, yes. There were warm blankets in the house.
And you
Those
still
weren't-
never went in, did you?
No, I went and attended to John because once I finished calling 911, I went over to John and Carrie Roberts asked me to take over compressions. So I felt like that was more important. And 911 was on the way. I never thought about going in the house. I just thought, how can I help John?
You never thought
How
about going
can
in
you
the
help?
house.
John would be going in the house.
But you
though.
did pull out your cell phone and make two phone
Wow.
calls, didn't you?
After I called 911, I tried calling my sister, yes.
While John was out in the cold, clinging to life, you were doing chest compressions at 6:07 and 6:08, were you?
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked 25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting heavy blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those two very important
Well, that would have been
phone calls,
helpful
6:07,
because he
6:08,
can do
You say
you.
were not answered. correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break.
Your Honor, I have two more questions,
Okay.
and I'll wrap it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house.
Just such a
You
great
see
point.
nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep
They weren't coming outside, were they?
because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct. She didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying
Yeah,
on the lawn,
that's
and your
good.
sister's not answering the phone. And nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was
Oh, so you
crying
saw-
she hit him. I didn't, but my focus, can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better.
That makes no sense.
You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all.
How would you know that?
You knew
Dude.
what really happened, didn't you?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
That's all I have.
All right, jurors, luncheon break.
I want to hear that last bit again.
Take 48 to 25.
Come on, you didn't think Brian Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone, and nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus, can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you, Ms. McCabe?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
That's all I have.
All right, jurors, lunch and break. Let's take 40, 45.
Now, the only thing,
Follow up on mine.
okay, so I just wanted to reiterate. So I think that what was really important there is that how, you know, when she says, "Oh, I didn't wake them up or whatever. I didn't go in the house because I was focused on John." And then he's like, makes the point, obviously, that, well, if you were really focused on John, you get a first responder right there. So that doesn't make any sense, right? And then the other thing is, well, what about being worried about them? I mean, two really great points as to how it just doesn't make any sense. Another great point here from Happy Annie, the taillight wasn't found until days later. But the only thing I will say is I didn't like that last comment or last question from Jackson, because I don't think that needed to be said. I think it's stronger when you let the jury come to that conclusion versus pointing it out point blank, right? Like that felt a little bit overdoing it a little bit. If I were on the jury, I'd be like, oh man, you know, because you want them to come to that conclusion on their own. I think that was stronger. But anyway, okay, so now we're going to skip ahead. I have not actually seen the redirect and the recross or the last witness. So we're going to go ahead here to the outside the presence of the jury. Okay.
All right, so counsel's 10 minutes late. Just as I was walking out here, was told that the Commonwealth needs to see me. Oh, hold on, Ms. Reed's not here. All right, so counsel wanted to see me here or at sidebar?
I have no preference.
All right, if it's something to be done in open court, go right ahead.
So we had mentioned earlier at the end of Ms. McCabe's testimony, I have clips that I would like to play. There is a dispute regarding two of them. And I've given previous notice to the defense they've would like different content in than I would. And I would hope to have a court's ruling before I played them.
All right, so I received an envelope, court copy, clip 17 was the only one I was given that was in.
That's a new one. The other
In
one was
dispute.
previously turned over to the court.
Okay,
The ones we have a dispute on are clip 13 and clip 15.
okay. So I viewed the other clips. There's an objection to 13 and 15? There's an objection to them? All right, let's play them. They're quick, right?
Yes, they are.
Play them very quickly.
Just to clarify, it's not really objectifying them, it's that they're incomplete. So she didn't finish her answer. So we're just asking them to be extended so she can actually complete. So we produced alternative clips. So there's two for each, 13 and clip 15.
All right, so the Commonwealth gets to play what they want, and then you can play yours at some point too. I
But
haven't seen-
then if we don't have time, I can wait to have a hearing on this. I don't think the defense can play in self-serving statements because they think it's not
Okay,
going to come to
I haven't seen it. All right, I saw clip 17. I have no problem with clip 17 coming in.
I don't think they have an objection to 17. The ones that are objectionable, I know we're pressed on a Friday. I can hold them till next week until the dispute becomes more clear for the court.
Okay.
It sounds like it's going to take more time than I thought.
All right, so I need what you have, Ms. Little. I need that to review this weekend. All right, anything else?
The second issue is, I should approach the side.
Okay.
So now we have Jen on redirect.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mrs. McCabe.
Good afternoon.
I want you to briefly tell us your memory of the weather when you first arrived at Fairview, when you
Really?
left at Fairview, and when you returned the next morning a little after 6 a.m.
That's what he's starting with? The weather? You've got to be kidding me.
Okay.
I mean, this has been, dude, why?
And when I
Is he turned into Lolly?
arrived at Fairview on the early hours of the 29th, the snow was falling, just starting to fall, starting to stick to the street and onto the windshields. When I left Fairview, it had, accumulated more where my husband had to wipe the windows. And then the following morning, when we were driving there, it was dark and the snow was like coming out the car. Like it was very hard to see.
When you returned the next morning, we've seen video from the dash cam. The elements, the visibility, is that fairly depicted in that dash cam?
Yes. Obviously it was lit more because of the lighting and the spotlights, etc.
From the moment that you first saw John until you went into your sister's home, is it fair to say a number of different first responders arrived?
Yes,
When the first responders arrived, did you see a number of different vehicles arrive?
I did. Yes.
Did any of them have their sirens on?
Not that I recall.
Ambulance, fire truck, police cars, do you remember ever any siren on at all?
Not that I recall. No.
And your sister and brother-in-law, you described how you went in the house and woke them up. They never came out before you woke them up?
No, they didn't.
There was a house right next to where you found John before 34. Do you know what address that is?
I would assume it's 32.
Did you ever see anybody come out of 32 Fairview and come over to John in the scene to help out?
No.
Across the street, there's a house that's in between 32 and 34 if you cross the street.
Yes.
Did you ever see anybody come out of that house and offer assistance to help?
No.
There's a house.
So, okay, a couple things. I understand why he's asking this, right? I mean, these are okay questions. Like the point, like, oh, it wasn't just them that didn't wake up. No one else woke up. However, that does not explain her decision to not go and wake the Alberts up when the body was on their front lawn, not the front lawn of the other houses, but the front lawn of the Alberts. And also, considering it's in their front yard and he had just been there hours before, you would think that you can't put them, in other words, you can't put the Alberts, right, on the same equal, like they're not just like every other house on the street, right? So, yeah.
House right across the street from 34 Fairview, isn't there?
Yes.
And did anybody ever come out of that house and come over to assist?
No.
When you were trying to help John that moment, have you ever been trained in emergency aid?
Probably 25, 30 years ago.
Your state of mind. Best describe how you were feeling at that moment as far as your focus and what was going through your mind.
I was shocked, confused, nervous, scared, anxious. My friend was lying there on the ground. I had no idea what happened. All I wanted to do was to get help for John, and as fast as I could.
You saw on the dash cam, you spoke to a number of different people in law enforcement.
Yes.
In fact, during that day, a number of different people from law enforcement, did they call you? Objection.
I'll allow that. Move along to Mr. Brennan.
Did a number of people call you from law enforcement that day?
On the day of the 29th,
Yes.
Michael Proctor called me.
Okay. Did you speak to law enforcement after that day?
Yes.
Were you asked to engage in interviews?
Yes.
Were you asked to testify in front of grand juries?
Yes.
Were you asked to come to court and testify?
Yes.
Did you ever once refuse to speak to the police?
No.
Did you ever once refuse to testify?
No.
When you were speaking to the police on that dash cam, it's depicted on the dash cam, why were you speaking to the police?
Well, each officer that arrived had a set of questions of who it was, what happened, etc. So I was answering all the questions because my main focus was John.
Did you ever try to be evasive with the police?
No, I told them everything I knew.
Did you ever try to avoid speaking to them? Did you ever hold anything back from the police when you spoke to them?
I'll allow that, and then let's move on, Mr. Breenan, please.
No, I didn't.
What about
When you interviewed
FBI
with-
though? What about the FBI?
Many different law enforcement and people involved in this case. Were you ever given an opportunity to review somebody else's report after it was written and provide edits or your input?
I'll allow it.
No,
When you testified, are you testifying from what somebody wrote? They interpreted what you said months or years ago, or are you testifying from your own memory?
I'll allow it.
I'm testifying from my own memory.
You called 911?
Yes,
And that morning when you called 911, well, let me ask you, do you wear an Apple Watch?
I do have one. Yes.
The Apple Health data?
When you were speaking to 911 that morning and during that event, how did you feel?
Extremely nervous, anxious, scared, uncertain,
Do you think
panicked.
do you think your heartbeat was up?
Yes.
At 2:27, the night before, or around that time when you were looking up Hockomock before you went to bed, were you of the same state of mind of fear and panic, or were you in a very different state of mind?
Strike the fear and panic part. You can answer that, though. Were you with the same mind or different?
Different.
What was your state of mind at that time?
I was relaxed, just playing on my phone, looking up things before I went to bed.
Do you think your heartbeat was as elevated that evening as it was the next morning?
Sustained.
When you made a search for how long to die in the cold or how long to die in cold, is that something that you thought of for yourself?
I'll allow it.
No.
Why did you do it?
Miss Reed asked me to Google it.
And when was that?
That was in the morning after we found him.
And had you ever attempted either of those searches before Miss Reed asked you to do that?
No, I didn't.
You were asked questions about the next day when you visited the O'Keefe home and you read some records. You remember those questions?
Yes.
Do you remember going to the O'Keefe home?
I do. Yes.
You went with who?
With Carrie and our 2 daughters.
You remember how many hours you spent with the O'Keefe family?
I don't remember how many hours, say a few.
Was it over 3 or 4?
Could have been, I'm not sure.
What is the reason that you spend so much time at the O'Keefe home the next day?
We went over to offer support.
Notice also just how quickly she's answering these questions compared to on cross, where it's like immediate. Again, like that's one of the things I was mentioning. Think about how this will look to the jury, right? Like, again, because maybe these answers are so super prepared, right? And they're also answers that are going to be fair or favorable and, to her, like they're being asked in a way that is favorable to her, but also she's prepped.
Love, comfort, to be with them.
You weren't avoiding them, were you?
No.
Sustained.
After you left the O'Keefe home and reading the records, I don't know if this is your memory, it was suggested it was 5:12. Do you remember going to Fairview?
I remember driving by Fairview on the way to Mike Lank's.
When you went to Fairview, you were asked questions about when you stopped by, whether that meant you went in or were outside. Do you remember whether you went in or were outside?
We never went in.
Have you seen your phone records
She actually didn't answer the question. Like she should have said, I remember, but she just said we never went in.
that there are no calls to your sister when you went by Fairview at that time?
I'll allow it.
I haven't, no.
And when you went by, you were asked about that. In fact, you had been asked about that before, hadn't you? Whether
Yeah.
you stopped by.
Yes.
And Attorney Jackson showed you part of that statement.
Yes,
Did you, when you were saying that's part of the statement, did you read the whole statement to yourself?
I did.
And to put that in completeness, had you, under oath, talked about the fact that you went by that day?
I'm confused by your question.
Okay, may I approach?
Yes.
That's fair. It was a confusing question.
Thank you.
82? You did go by Fairview.
Yes.
When you stopped by Fairview, according to the questions you were asked, or the records you were asked to read, it was 4 minutes. You stopped by
Hang
Fairview.
on. How come she had no problem with that one refreshing her recollection though? And she didn't fight it, dude. Again, if you're on this jury, you've just seen her fight every single time the defense, with the exception of one time, I think it was. Wow.
1 and then 182.
Yes.
And
Or it's like, oh, but I'm not saying this happened now, like da da da.
so when you were asked about that before, had you in fact offered under oath that you did go by Fairview?
Yes.
When you stopped by Fairview, according to the questions you were asked, or the records you were asked to read, it was 4 minutes you stopped by Fairview. Does that sound like your memory?
No, I know we drove by, slowed down, and we were looking outside.
Why did you want to go back to the very scene that you had seen that morning?
I think Carrie and I I'm not really sure. I think we just drove down and we,
All right, so your answer is not really sure.
okay.
Next question.
Interesting.
And then according to the records that
Interesting. I think that Judge Bev stopped her because if her elaborating would have been bad, maybe. Interesting.
why did you want to go back to the very
That's
scene that
Commonwealth.
you had seen
Shouldn't
that
have done
morning?
I think
She shouldn't have done that. I mean, she was answering the question.
Carrie and I I'm not really sure. I think we just drove down and we,
All right, so your answer is not really sure.
okay.
Next question.
That's disgusting.
And then according to the records that were read to you, you went to Detective Lank's house
Yes.
and you were at that address for about 40 minutes, 50 minutes.
Yes.
You were read or shown certain text messages between you and some of your family.
Yes.
Was that a complete listing of the text messages in order that were on your phone?
I had a lot of text messages with them on my phone. Yes.
Were some missing from what you were shown?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You were asked about your state of mind. I'm going to ask you about some of those text messages in a
Good night,
minute.
Candace.
You were asked about calls and text messages to John O'Keefe.
Yes.
Have you ever inadvertently called anybody before on your iPhone?
I'll allow it.
Yes. Many times.
And you were asked whether or not you remembered or knew that those calls were made to Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Did you purposely make those calls?
No, I do not believe so.
If you inadvertently called on purpose, it wouldn't be inadvertent, would it?
True.
Did John ever answer any of your calls after that 1218 call?
No, he didn't.
And when you were reaching out to him, did you reach out to him the next morning after you heard from the defendant?
I did. Yes.
What?
No, next question, Mr. Bowman.
Why were you reaching out to him?
Because I was trying to get in touch with him because Miss Reed said he didn't come home.
You were asked about your state of mind over the next couple days.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask you about some of the text messages reflecting your full state of mind over the next couple days.
All right, this has to be really brief.
She doesn't say that to the Commonwealth when they ask to approach. Wow, it was not that quick.
All right, jurors, you're about to hear some evidence. And remember, I told you this morning that before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or created or sent, transmitted this communication was in fact the person alleged to have done so. If you do not find it is more likely true than not that the person alleged to have transmitted, created these messages, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding this case. And remember, what you're about to hear, you're not to use for the truth of the statement. It goes.
Okay. Well, I will say that while this still doesn't make any sense to give this instruction, because if it's not for the truth, it's not hearsay in the first place. At least she's doing it here also. But also, I wanted to point out Breenan's tie is so ugly.
Third or created or sent, transmitted this communication.
Ew. Sorry.
Was in fact the person alleged to have done so. If you do not find it is more likely true than not that the person alleged to have transmitted, created these messages, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding this case. And remember, what you're about to hear, you're not to use for the truth of the statement. It goes simply to the state of mind of Ms. McCabe at the time of the message. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. May I approach with a copy for the witness?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeez.
When law enforcement asks for your phone, was there any requirement you give that to them?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you voluntarily consent to give your entire phone to law enforcement?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes, I did.
I handed you a document that reflects your text messages from that morning and the next day. You were asked about some of them on the screen. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and you were asked how that affected your state of mind and the decisions that
Your entire phone as opposed to half of your phone, like chopping your phone in half. What?
you were making, correct?
Yes.
I want to read along, and I'll indicate if you look at the number on the left,
That's a great.
and then I'll read it, and you can let me know if I read it accurately.
Okay.
Starting at number 17, there's a phone call saying, please answer. Who are you calling?
I'm sorry. Where does it
May I
say?
approach?
Yes.
Oh, that's the number right
This
there.
would be the number. This would be the call. This would
Okay.
be-
Okay, so it's Joan O'Keefe. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Number 17, phone call, please answer. Who are you calling?
John O'Keefe.
Do you know at that point where he is?
No.
459-49. Number 18, Karen is worried. We need to find you.
John O'Keefe.
504-40. Number 19, please answer so I know you're okay. Who are you calling?
John O'Keefe.
Kat, what do you think of your new command?
Number 26, 515-41, 129.
Right, I know.
Okay, I'm trying to call people. I will be in touch soon. Do you know who you're calling?
Don't recognize the number.
What are you thinking at this point?
I'm trying to find people. I'm trying to call people so that I can try to find John.
Number 31, 522-57, 129. Okay,
How do you remember the purpose of all these phone calls though, but like none of the other ones that matter?
I tried to Beatty. Okay, I just talked to her. What are you referring to?
I don't know whose number this is.
Okay.
Um,
At this point in the morning, you're making these phone calls. Do you know where John is?
no, I have no idea where he is.
Turn to number 48, 129-22 at 8:44. You're texting any update. What is your state of mind?
Which number is this?
Number 48.
48. I believe that may be to Kerry Roberts, and I'm trying to get an update from the hospital.
You were asked about your relationship with Kerry Roberts. At that time, before that night, how many times had you met her?
Once.
And you said in the moment, did that relationship change?
Yes, instantly.
Was it for collusion?
No.
Let me ask you, number 160. This is 129 at 2 in that afternoon. Do you have 160?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm here.
160. Do you see that?
Mhm.
Okay. I can't stop seeing him in the snow. Jen, this is awful. Who's that from?
Also,
Kerry.
I will note that
Is your
she's
state of mind collusion?
not disputing what the phone records show when it comes to these records, right?
No.
Objection.
I'll allow it and ask it again, please, Mr. Chairman.
168. 129-22 at 2:04:32. You're calling Miss Roberts. Every time I close my eyes, it's all I see. I feel like I'm going to vomit. I just can't even. I know how close you two were. Can't imagine how hard the situation is for you. Does this reflect your state of mind that day?
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
We have to approach.
Objections noted. Next question.
Wow. That's
We need
gross.
to approach on this.
Yeah.
text.
Sorry, Beth. Beth, you cannot just be like, no approach, dude. And the thing is it's her fault because she said no objections on the record, no grounds for objections. So, dude, okay.
Yes.
I won't read that last text message again. However, it is correct that text message was from you to Ms. Roberts, number 168.
Yes, it was.
And the response in this text message, number 169, from Ms. Roberts to you, you were also, this is awful, Jen, I'm in shock.
Yes.
Number 170. And this one is from Ms. Roberts to you, 129:22 at 2:05:45. I literally am having wine. I don't know what to do. Calm down.
Yes.
Huh.
171 at 2:06:35 on 129:22 from you to Ms. Roberts. I know I am definitely in shock and it keeps hitting me. I just feel so sick. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I'm going to read one more. 172. And this is from Ms. Roberts to you at 2:13:41 on 129:22. I don't know what to even do. I'm so sorry for both of us. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Number 175. Again to Ms. Roberts, 2:14:15, 129:22. Do you text, I talked to Peggy, I am devastated for them?
Yes.
And did you follow up seconds later at 2:14:56 on 129:22? I am so sick to my stomach.
Yes.
That day, did you have to speak to your children about what happened?
I did. Yes.
Was that part of your state of mind that day?
Yes.
I'll allow that.
Number 208 or 207. You received a text from this number. I don't want to say it out loud, but if you could read it, 207. Do you know who that's from?
I don't.
Okay, we'll move to the next one then. 208, 129:22, 3:42:06. I've never felt so sick. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Number 210, 4:33:40, 129:22. You text messaging somebody?
Yes.
Do you know who that is?
I don't, just off of the number.
Okay. And this text message, is this from you to somebody?
Yes.
My mind is racing. I have that awful feeling in my gut.
Why is he reading all this into the record? This is insanity. She's supposed to read. Oh my God.
I'm about,
I'll allow it.
Wow.
I'll stand by this witness allegedly.
my mind is racing. I have that awful feeling in my gut like I am about to puke. Besides seeing the awful image, trying to wrap my head around what happened to him. Is that accurate?
Yes.
$213.
Thanks, Iowa.
This is on 129:22 at 4:38:20. Do you know who was texting you?
Yes.
Who?
My friend.
Once things settle, you need to talk to someone and process the trauma. And then 214, you respond. 129:22, 4:40:38.
Dude.
I've been shaking since this AM. I feel so sick. Everything started to be a blur and all run into each other.
Yes.
And this is at
This is
4:40:38 at 129:22.
Crazy. He's just testifying at this juncture. This is why.
Yes.
And during that day, you've spoken to law enforcement
Yes.
and the days that follow.
Yes.
Did you see what I did there with that quizzity? God only knows. Why is her
I'm going to
cross
move to
off?
129:22, 7:52. If you look at number 289, please.
Does it even matter? You're just going to read it into the record. We love you, Iowa.
Okay.
At 289, is this a text from your sister, Nicole?
Yes.
Any update? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And you were shown this text at 292,
Yes.
and you
This is crazy.
texted your sister, Kerry talked to cops, kept it simple.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
I mean, the cop.
Kept it simple. That's like the opposite of all the other things that people said about Carrie.
had gone to her house, but she had had a long day and been drinking some wine. So she said she just made it quick.
And you were sharing that with your sister?
Yes.
And was your sister
A lot of wine going on.
Part of many of these texts is part of your support group?
Yes.
Did anybody tell you that you shouldn't rely on your family and have a conversation about what you went through? Objection.
I'll allow that.
No, no one did.
They're not supposed to.
And during that text time, the one I just read to you was at 7:54:38. She turned to 296,
This is crazy.
129:22 at 7:56:50.
The thing is, I will say
Did
though,
yours?
the fact that he's just reading them and not, it's like her words, but he's not having her say it. If anything, I think it's less effective for the Commonwealth because he's just reading it all nasally and matter of fact and like da 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 da. And it's like, if he wants these to be impactful, he should have her read it and fake emotion and stuff. So
Sister text you, okay, try get some sleep, talk tomorrow.
Yes.
And did you text back at 7:57? Yes, but don't feel pressure.
Yes.
And the next one, 298 at 7:57:07. Was your sister asking you for any updates?
maybe that's why
Yeah.
the defense is not objecting, right? Because it's actually less effective this way. I mean, I think it's easier to tune him out.
And at 7:57:13, did she text you,
Just
I love you,
rattling
don't beat yourself up, you did the best you could?
Yes.
Right? Good point. It's not evidence, yeah. Yeah, she bares her teeth a lot. She did even more in the first class.
And just a few minutes later, one at number 308, please, 129:22 at 8:01 p.m.
Mhm.
Did your sister again write to you, okay, text me in the AM if you hear anything later?
Yes.
And you continue texting with her?
Yes.
You were asked about timeline?
Yes.
If you turn to number 761, please.
I wonder if that means going to call Denise Pride to answer.
761.
761, please.
What page is that on?
248.
I'm missing page 248.
You don't have a 2-page 48?
No, it stops at 212 and picks up at 253.
Yes, yeah, the witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
Could you remind us who asked you to put together a timeline?
Peggy.
Peggy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
2 days later, January 31st, 2022, and this is at 10:26:29 a.m. Are you texting Ms. Roberts?
This is
I am.
crazy.
I have spent the AM trying to process that he is really gone and try to piece together all the events. Is that part of the process of the timeline?
Yes.
At some point on the 31st, was something happening around Fairview Road that you learned?
I believe there was police presence.
Was there any presence from the media, the press?
Oh, yes, there was.
Was that causing any concern?
I believe I talked to Peggy and she was,
So on January 31st, 2022, we're at number 864.
Mhm.
You're receiving information. Do you know who this number is? It's calling you?
that's my sister,
Which one?
Nicole.
And she's texting you, news people came by and knocked on the door again. They're all leaving now, Peggy and them left about 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
And then at 1 o'clock, 18 seconds on 1:32:22, you text back, did you answer the door?
Correct.
Was this part of your state of mind on the 31st, what was going on around the house?
Yes.
Just a few more. In trying to recount for people who asked you that morning and over the next couple days, some of what's reflected in those text messages, was that part of your state of mind?
Yes.
Was it in any way affecting the way you were remembering and thinking about what had happened?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
Your Honor, subject to redactions, I would seek to introduce all of Ms. McCabe's text messages.
So we'll deal with that later. Is there an objection?
There is.
We'll deal with that later.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, recross. I just started a poll, guys.
Ms. McCabe, a couple of follow-up questions. You indicated on redirect examination that there were no sirens that you heard that morning with the approach of the first responders. Is that right?
I don't believe there was.
But they did have their lights on.
I saw a spotlight, yes, and I do believe they had lights on, yes.
Flashing red and blue lights or red lights, some combination thereof, correct?
Correct.
That was cruisers, police cruisers, correct?
Yes.
There were fire SUVs, in other words, a captain of a fire department.
Possibly.
There were fire trucks and fire engines. You know the difference?
No.
Fire engine, big one with a ladder on it.
Yes.
There was an ambulance, correct?
Yes.
And all of them had their emergency lights on.
Most likely, yes.
All of them had their motors running.
I'm not sure if they were all running. They could have been, yes.
Certainly, you would agree that there was a cacophony of diesel engines and gasoline engines and internal combustion engines that were running right outside of 34 Fairview, although no sirens, correct?
I wouldn't exactly say right outside of 34 Fairview. I'd say there were some right outside of 34 Fairview, but the first vehicle pulled up kind of right just on the right end, and most of the vehicles with the lights on were to the left. So they were actually more in front of 32 Fairview. But there were vehicles. There was Miss Roberts' vehicle, and then I believe another vehicle pulled up. I think I remember from seeing the dash cam.
And Sarah's cruiser, correct?
Yes.
And Mulaney's cruiser was on the other side of Terry Roberts' vehicle, correct?
Yes, I don't believe lights were on. His lights were on.
And there was an ambulance just to the left and behind Sarah's vehicle, correct?
Yes, which would have been in front of 32 Fairview.
Lights on that as well?
Yes.
All facing in the direction of 34 Fairview, correct?
Facing, but out front of 32.
So is there a reason that you're so resistant to admit that there was a cacophony of sound and noise outside of 34 Fairview?
No.
Okay, so there was, correct?
Outside on the front lawn, yes,
Yeah.
side lawn.
And there was also some people yelling and screaming at a high pitch, right?
Yes,
Both Miss Reed, who was yelling and screaming, correct?
correct,
And Miss Roberts, who at least at some point told her to shut the fuck up, correct?
correct.
You were asked about
Well,
the
we'll be
stop
there
at
later.
34 Fairview on the way to Sergeant Lank's house on redirect examination by Mr. Brennan just now, correct?
I was, yes.
He showed you a couple of pages of your transcript from that question and answer, correct?
I believe he showed me a page, yes.
And you noted that this was a question and answer from a hearing last year in this courtroom.
Yes,
And you admitted that you stopped, but actually, let me rephrase that. You were confronted with the fact that you stopped at 34 Fairview on the way to Officer Lank's house, Sergeant Lank's house, by me on cross-examination, correct?
yes, you asked me.
You also indicated that you have never refused to speak to the police, any law enforcement officer in this case, correct?
I've spoken when asked to, yes.
But in point of fact, when you were approached by the two law enforcement agents who were not connected to Massachusetts State Police
Yup.
or the Canton PD,
Good.
you suspended that interview and refused to answer further questions.
That's right.
Correct?
I welcomed them in my house, sat with them, and then I stopped, and then I met with them a few times after, and I answered all their questions that they asked. I helped clear up some misconceptions that they had been told, and as you know, I know they're no longer investigating, so I think I helped them well.
And you're obviously well aware that in that first interview, you stopped the interview cold and refused to answer further questions, correct?
I said, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to seek some counsel, yes.
The text messages. You just read a series of text messages that Mr. Brennan actually read for you and you agreed with, correct?
Correct.
Were any of the text messages that you just read in the group chat that I showed you in cross-examination?
Mhm.
I don't believe
Great
so.
question.
I don't believe so.
And that group chat included you, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Matt McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And that was a private chat among the four of you. Is that right?
That's just a chat with them, yes.
You read some text messages to and from Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You had just met Carrie Roberts. Isn't that right?
Yes.
She's not a McCabe. Is that right?
Correct.
She's not an Albert, correct?
Correct.
You even read some text messages with your minor children, correct?
Just now?
Yeah.
I don't believe anyone with my children.
Mr. Breenan asked you about a couple of text messages, or at least one text message with your children, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
Objection.
She can answer that question. Is that what happened?
Did I misunderstand?
No, I honestly didn't read anything from my children. I think one, I said a friend, another time I didn't know who it was, but I do know my children's phone numbers, and no, it was
Okay.
none of my kids.
Obviously, the kids are not on that group chat, that private group chat that we went over, correct?
Oh, yes, correct. They're not.
Well, let's talk about those unidentified numbers. You said this is a number I don't recognize, and Mr. Brennan read to you a text to that person, correct?
Yes,
Whoever that is, that person's not a McCabe, correct?
they're not correct.
And that person's not an Albert.
They could be, again, it could have been Chris, but Julie, I don't, one of the numbers I didn't recognize because I have everybody in my phone with the name, so I don't recognize every number.
And that person certainly was not in that group chat with you, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Matt McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And then there was a friend. You said this is a friend, and I don't need you to identify the friend, but whoever this unidentified friend is, that friend is not a McCabe and is not an Albert, correct?
Correct.
And that friend was also not in that group chat that we went over in cross-examination. Is that right?
Correct.
These are all people outside of that group, among whom you engaged in the chat that we saw, correct?
Correct.
And that includes Carrie Roberts. She was not included in that group chat where you talked about the case and talked about what she was and wasn't doing with law enforcement, right?
Correct. It was just my sister, my brother-in-law, and husband.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, that's all I have.
All right. Ms. McCabe, you are all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So for anyone who missed it, we've got a poll there in the chat. Make sure you get your votes in. Who won? Jackson or
All right.
Jen?
I'd like to play a couple of clips, Your Honor.
Oh,
I want you to just wait 10 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Breenan clips.
All right, you can play them now.
May I proceed?
Yes.
I'd like to play clip 12, please.
There was a woman who was a mother to kids that were close to John's kids, who lived very close to the Alberts. In fact, when Jen was navigating John to the Alberts when I was driving, she said it's near Ashley's house. Ashley and John were hooked up prior to John and I dating. There was a woman.
Hold on. Hold on before you play it
We've
again.
already played that one. We don't need to play it again.
Okay.
12A, please.
Two things. Either he's hurt himself and is incapacitated. He could be passed out on someone's couch, which is just weird. We're not on a campus. Everyone lives in their own home with children, or he's sleeping with someone. And there were multiple women in the neighborhood of Fairview that John had been with. And one of them very recently, before I started dating John.
Clip 16, please.
We'll backtrack later. Let's start with 3430. So who are you with? And pull out the legacy.
I'm with Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts, and Carrie Roberts is Ford Explorer. And I'm in the back, leaning over the front two seats. Carrie's driving and Jen's in the passenger seat. And I describe this to everyone, so you've probably heard this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heat that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him. And the fear of what I was going to see is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. The anticipation of what is awaiting me was as extreme a feeling. I wouldn't say it was as extreme a feeling as the grief of realizing what happened to him.
And finally, clip 17, please.
So what did the Commonwealth, what were they hoping to show with that clip?
I need to see the court before this was played.
All right, hold that, please.
I don't understand what that is supposed to show. Was it because they thought the word buffalo would be offensive? I have no idea what they hoped to prove with that.
You're calling Miss Hannah Knowles to the stand?
Oh, yes. Well, but that's so the thing. I would. You're probably right, Twiz, that that's what they're hoping to show. But it doesn't make any sense because I mean, at this point, it already came out so far, even in well, I guess it would have been in the defense opening statements, and there will be more testimony though about how the reason it was weird, right? Like when she woke up was because of the fact that he would have never left the kids, and that the fact that he was still not home yet. Is why she thought something was wrong. So I don't know. I guess. Great question from Vendor. Do we think Karen should testify? So we know it's usually a bad idea for defense to take the stand in general. Like that is a thing. However, I could see it being helpful here. She said she knew she's fined him on the side of the road and expected to find him there. How does she explain that? I don't think that's exactly what she said. Let me back it up. Okay, let's see here.
It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him. And the fear.
I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting to find him. I was looking to find him on the side of the road. But you know what's interesting is he wasn't even found on the side of the road. He was found in a front yard. He wasn't on the side of the road. So there's that.
Fear of what I was going to
That's not even accurate.
see is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. The anticipation.
And remember the other thing, and I don't think the jury's heard this yet, but there's going to be the testimony. Actually, no, maybe this has been played. There's the clip where she's talking about how she thought maybe he was hit by a snowplow. And that even came in last trial through some of the testimony that she thought maybe he'd been hit by a snowplow. So if you think about that, like, and again, this is out of context, certainly, right? But if what was preceding this was her talking to the interviewer and saying that she thought maybe he'd been hit by a snowplow, then expecting to find someone on the side of the road if they've been hit by a snowplow would make sense. But again, that's not even where he was. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Because he'd never leave the kids alone and she was supposed to go home and not spend the night. Yep. Yep. Karen said that she saw John walk into the house from the side door, not the front door. What is that in reference to, Ronnie? Are you saying that she got that wrong in the statement? Or I'm not sure if you can clarify what that's in reference to. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a reference. What specifically you're talking about there? Right. It's so obvious that he was there. Yeah. And Fender, so that's why I think she could put, because the defense can't put in response clips, and I think that's his whole plan. Breenan wants to right. Breenan wants to play the worst stuff and bait her to testify. Yeah, that's a great point as well. So I mean, I think it's possible that if he went into the house, right, and then he left the house at some point. I mean, if you don't know what happened, right, and then could get hit by a snowplow. That's hilarious, Twiz. You know, again, because she thought that he would have been coming home, right? Like he was there, he's going to have some beers, and then he's going to come home. Like she was expecting him to come home. And so that would imply he would have left the house, right? If he went inside to come home. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Right. And that's why the defense, okay. Right. So different door than what the other, well, I guess nobody else is saying they saw him go in a door, but okay. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about the doors, right? And I remember even in the first trial that came up a lot. Not that he would walk home. I mean, my assumption would be that he would get a ride from somebody else, right? Or again, remember the whole thing about calling Tom Beatty and even the Bella child's mom, right? Like there's people that live nearby, or a ride from one of the other McAlbert people, right? Like, you know, when they were leaving, you know what I mean? Not to mention Higgins had a snowplow on his Jeep, and that was, you know, the Jeep was there, at least when he was dropped off, the Jeep was still there, right? So maybe when she says hit by a snowplow, maybe she's actually referencing Higgins specifically. You know, my first thought at the very beginning of the first trial, when I accidentally saw the injuries to his head, was like, I thought maybe he was hit by that snowplow. I'm not saying intentionally. My thought was, even if he were to be drunk and like back up and fall into the blade of that snowplow, that's what the injury on the head looks like to me. So that was, you know, I came into the first trial knowing nothing about the case, and that was just from seeing the injury. I was like, it looks like something that could have happened from the blade of a snowplow. And that was before that even came up in the trial. That's just what looking at it looked like. So anyway, that could be part of what, you know, maybe that's the snowplow she's referencing. Kat letting everyone know it's 11:11. Thank you, Kat. Make a wish, everybody. If a ride, right, because if somebody's walking around in a blizzard and gonna, you know, again, maybe she was referencing Higgins specifically. That might be the most obvious, but I'm not a mind reader. I don't know Karen. And these are things that if she testifies, she could explain exactly defender's point, right? I'm just saying that I don't think that the snowplow thing implies that a snowplow must come inside the house. I don't think that that's a reasonable conclusion to draw. And I also think it's reasonable that if he was expected to come home, he would have left the house. And from there, it means he's outside and something could have happened to him, like being hit by a snowplow. I don't think that's such a crazy conclusion to, if you're wondering what happened, like, I don't see why that's far-fetched to me. But that's just my personal opinion. Twist says, I've walked home drunk, not in a snowstorm. Excellent. Yes, I can make that. I don't know that I can copy and paste it from StreamYard, which would be a lot easier than trying to type all that verbatim. Yeah, I can't. I wonder if I can do that. Hold on. Let me see if I can do that through YouTube. Can you copy? Yeah, you can't copy. Hang on. Yeah, you can't copy and paste though. That sucks. That's going to be a lot harder to do without copying and pasting, Heather. Welcome in, Miss Mojo. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I mean, I think that is, I mean, I think it's, I mean, you know, I think that's highly debatable to say the least, I personally feel like it is a mystery that what happened. I feel like I still don't know what happened personally. I want to know what happened. I feel like it is a mystery personally. I mean, and absolutely. And that's the thing. The injuries don't match up. And 100%. If injuries aligned with being hit by a car, it would be very, very different. I'm cutting out. Am I cutting out to you guys? Can you guys not hear me? Do I sound okay? Pat Randall says, Twiz, I'll give an open invitation on a drunk blizzard walk. That is hilarious. All the way from Washington State to Virginia. Wait, I changed your command. Do you want to change it again? I changed it to your request. Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, weird. I don't know what's going on. Maybe that's a YouTube issue. I had another thought. What was my other thought? There was something else I was going to say. Can we videotape it? Videotape what? Videotape what? So Heather's going to share that. Let me make that command. Okay, thank you, Happy Annie. So there was something else I was going to say about this. Oh, it might have been, do we want to do a poll? So let me look at the poll. Has everyone voted in the poll? We can do it. Do you all want to do a second poll where it should Karen take the stand? Do you guys want to do that? Oh, the Blizzard Walk video. That's hilarious, Fender. That's hilarious. Thank you, Heather, for sending that. Do you guys want me to end this poll and start a new poll? Because I think you can only have one at a time of should Karen take the stand? I'm going to go ahead and end this one because it's a landslide here. 80% for Jackson and 20% for Jen. So may as well do another one, huh? Let's do that. Okay, let me create this poll. Okay, so new poll, guys, if you want to vote for should Karen take the stand, and I'm going to do the other command. What else was I going to do? Multitasking. Okay, maybe that was it. So let's go. We've got a new witness.
What name of
Okay.
I'm calling Miss Hannah Knowles to the stand.
Oh my God, wait. I just realized Lolly's doing the questioning. Oh my God, he's still alive? Wow. Thank you, Heather.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Wow.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court?
Certainly. My name is Hannah Knowles. My last name is spelled Knowles.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a forensic scientist at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab.
And prior to working at the lab, where did you go to school?
I have a Bachelor of Science from Simmons University in Boston and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from the George Washington University.
And how long have you worked at the State Police Lab?
Since October of 2006.
And in what capacity do you work there now?
I'm currently a Forensic Scientist 4 in the Toxicology Unit.
Now, when you joined the State Police Lab, what was your position and title that you were initially hired for?
I was initially hired as a Chemist 1 in the Drug Identification or Narcotics Unit. After about a year in that position, I was promoted to a Chemist 2 position. After about a year, there was a position available in the Toxicology Unit, so I applied for that available position, transferred to the Tox Unit in about August of 2007, and been in the Toxicology Unit ever since.
And Ms. Knowles, briefly, if you could describe sort of what is the difference between a Chemist 1 and a Chemist 2?
At the time, the job series for folks that worked at the crime lab was the chemist series. A chemist 1 was an entry level or trainee type position where the individual was responsible for progressing through the training program, assisting with casework as they are authorized on different modules. Chemist 2 was a bench level analyst, someone who had completed training or had a significant amount of authorizations and could work on casework and worked independently from that point forward.
And similarly, what is sort of the difference between a chemist 2 and a chemist 3?
The Chemist 3 series that was in place prior to 2014 was a first level supervisory role. It was somebody who oversaw the day-to-day operations and the work of forensic scientists 1 and 2, or chemists 1 and 2.
And what are your current duties and responsibilities at the State Police Lab?
In 2014, those chemist classifications that I was describing got changed to forensic scientists. Forensic scientist 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the series. Currently, I'm a forensic scientist 4. And so my role is overseeing training and validation for the toxicology unit.
Is there a continuing educational component to your work at the lab?
Yes, there is.
And can you describe that?
She is a new witness now. Remember, there was I wonder if there was a witness who wasn't going to be able to testify, and the Commonwealth had made a motion to replace her or replace that witness with somebody else. I think that might be who this is. I think somebody else in the first trial testified to whatever it is.
As part of our accreditation, analysts are required to participate in continuing education at least once per year.
We're going to bump this up to 1.5 so we don't all die.
As they continue to work in their role. Continuing education can consist of participating in workshops or...
Oh my God, we don't need all this. For fuck's sake. Proficiency, great. We're just going to get to where she did stuff involved with this. Oh, there's ANAB. Shout out to ANAB. Weird because remember Judge Bev was like, I've never heard of that. Dude, cannot.
What is forensic science?
Forensic science generally is the application of science to questions of law.
And just again, in sort of general terms, if you could explain to the jury, what is toxicology?
Toxicology generally is a study of chemicals and other substances and how they impact a living organism or a person.
Now, asking a little more specifically, what is forensic toxicology?
Forensic toxicology is generally looking at drugs and alcohol in the human body and how it affects the individual and applying chemistry and other disciplines to measure the concentration or determine the presence or absence of relevant substances.
Are there different types of alcohol?
Yes, there are.
And what are those types?
Oh, boy.
Generally, alcohols are a family or a group of drugs or chemicals that have a specific functional group or specific structure. The types of alcohols that are analyzed in the laboratory that I work include methanol, ethanol, and isopropanol.
And what are the differences between those different types?
They all have similar but slightly different structures. Methanol is a solvent. Sometimes it's called wood grain alcohol. Isopropanol is rubbing alcohol or 2-propanol, and that is typically used as a disinfectant. And ethanol is the type of alcohol that we typically are referring to when we talk about alcoholic beverages. It's what's present in those types of liquids.
Now, Ms. Knowles, through your training and experience, are you familiar with the term known as a central nervous system depressant?
Yes, I am.
And can you explain that term to the jury?
Sure. A central nervous system depressant is a drug or a substance that works to slow down the reactions of nerves in your body. So it makes nerve cells slower or less likely to respond to stimulus.
Now, is alcohol a central nervous system depressant?
Yes, it is.
And how would that central nervous system depressant affect the human body?
The effects depend on the concentration or the amount that's present in the body. Effects range, depending on that concentration, from slowing reaction time, reducing heart rate or respiration rate in an individual. That slower respiration rate can also result in drowsiness or unconsciousness. Slower reaction time and more limited muscle control can also result in outward appearances like a staggering gait or slurred speech. It can impair balance and motor coordination. Because nerves are responding more slowly, alcohol can also, or ethanol specifically, can impact your brain's ability to form new memories. It can impact your body's ability to perceive and apply critical thinking.
Well, this is great, right?
Again, all of those effects that I just described, they can be present depending on the concentration and the individual and how they're responding to that particular concentration of ethanol at any particular time.
Now, how is work assigned within the State Police Lab, specifically within the toxicology unit?
Oh my God, I just don't care. Y'all, I do not care. Okay, the serum conversion. Okay, it's that whole thing. I thought we already heard about this. Did we not? I thought, didn't we already have to go through listening to Dr. Fowler or whatever his name was, the one who was like the most boring of all of them? I thought we already were put through this.
So I may approach and retrieve what's been previously marked as Exhibit 37. Portion of those records.
I had reviewed in preparation.
In those records on that 52nd page, what was, and pursuant to those records, at what time was that sample taken from the defendant at the Good Samaritan Medical Center?
The collection time listed on the medical records is January 29th, 2022 at 9:08 a.m.
Now, that recording and a measurement of milligrams per deciliter, is that typical for how you see ethanol measured by hospital labs?
Yes.
And did you conduct the serum conversion for this defendant's reading consistently with how you do in every case that's assigned to you?
Yes.
Now, please explain to the jury how you're able to convert that serum level reading to a blood alcohol concentration.
So the way that the calculation is performed is kind of in two steps. So the results are listed in
If I remember correctly, they changed it like from the last trial, if I remember correctly. Do you guys remember that? It was in a filing that we covered where like they actually thought it was lower the second time around or something. Anyway.
Milligrams per deciliter, which is common in clinical testing. And to convert it to the type of units that are typically used for blood alcohol concentrations, we just divide by 1,000 to get that into the right units. So 93 milligrams per deciliter converts to 0.093 grams per cent. And then to perform the serum conversion, or to get this serum ethanol concentration into what we would estimate to be a blood alcohol concentration, we apply two conversion factors, a low and a high conversion factor, to account for the range that we see in the typical population. I'd mentioned earlier that serum's usually between 13 to 19% higher. So you divide that 0.093 by 1.13 and by 1.19 to get a low and a high blood alcohol concentration for that range.
And those conversion factors that you just mentioned, where do those come from?
The conversion factors come from literature where they've performed experiments similar to how I described. They have individuals that have ingested ethanol.
Guys, his cough drops are so good. Thank you, thank you. Right, that's the dude who I think couldn't make it this time, so she's the replacement.
They collect samples from them and test their whole blood and test their serum alcohol concentrations, and then compare them and see what the ratio is between them. The current ratios that are used by the laboratory, the 13 and 19%, those are also consistent with consensus body documents, or sort of industry standards that we utilize and base our protocols upon.
Now, that 13 and 19%, how long have those conversion factors been in place?
There was a consensus body document published in 2024, and so we adjusted the serum conversion factors that had previously been in use to those new published, or those new recommendations in September of 2024.
Now, does the change in conversion factors recently adopted by your lab, does that benefit the patient or the person for whom you're converting the ethanol to blood alcohol concentration?
Okay. I'll allow it. Does it?
Yeah, the previous factors we used between 12 and 18%. And so when you perform that conversion, it typically ends up with a equivalent or lower blood alcohol concentration. And so it could be interpreted as being favorable to a defendant.
Now, why are they presented in a range?
We don't use just one conversion factor because in the studies that we base our procedures on, it demonstrates that the general population does not have one consistent conversion factor or ratio between their whole blood and their serum alcohol concentrations. And so to ensure that the conversion that we're utilizing applies to most of the general population, we use sort of the extremes of what we see in that literature, like a high and a low, to make sure that our approximation falls, that the true value would fall somewhere in between that low and that high value.
And what did you calculate as a low and a high range for this defendant's blood alcohol concentration from that alcohol reading from the Good Samaritan Medical Center?
So the 93 milligrams per deciliter serum ethanol concentration would convert to between 0.078 and 0.092% or grams per cent.
And again, Ms. Knowles, that's at the time that the blood is drawn at approximately 9:08 a.m. on January 29th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, turning your attention to retrograde extrapolation, can you explain to the jury what a retrograde extrapolation is?
Sure. A retrograde extrapolation.
Oh my God, I'm done, y'all. Me, even my cough drop. I've gotta just. Would love to hear your story.
And how is that done?
Similar to the range of conversion factors that we were looking at with the serum conversion, we know that the rate of elimination in alcohol in humans varies from person to person. And so
I did think that whole thing about the whole ordering a shot for everyone was weird. But my main thing was like, dude, how much extra money it would cost for every single drink you order. You're basically paying for two. Like, I don't know. We had a whole discussion about this on a different live stream about people that would be willing to speak up and be like, hey, sorry, like this is not really normal. Can you fix it? And then people who would just shut up and take it, so to speak. But I pointed out, because I've worked in restaurants and whatnot, and I like that is, there's like a standard pour that like they have to, well, having said that, we know that these bars they went to let them walk out with drinks in their hands. So anyway, normally you're supposed to have a standard pour that is very measured, because otherwise, if it's not, you can accidentally overserve. And then if the alcohol board people come in and do one of those blind inspection things, like honestly, jail time could happen. So it's like a big deal. So that's why, for legal purposes, they're really careful about making sure those pours are like always the same. But you can see how, that being the case, it seems unlikely that if there's a weak pour, you would have that happen on drink after drink after drink. Anyway, those were some of the things we talked about it at length, though. I love these cough drops, guys.
Based on studies where they're looking at rates of elimination in large groups of people.
Oh, I
know
meant to fast forward this because we're all dying. I mean, do we even, like, I don't even know. Is this worth watching at all? You know, let's see what's happening here.
there's a greater difference between the faster and the slower rates of elimination, the 0.01 per hour and the 0.025 per hour.
And what do those minimum and maximum blood alcohol concentration numbers signify?
They signify the smallest and the largest concentration.
I'm thinking we will do after this is done is we will do our part 2 of the video from Idaho v. Koberger. We were watching the recent long crime video, quote unquote, shocking new details. And we made it through like less than half the first round. So I think we might finish that after this. So,
and that could be reasonably expected based on the blood alcohol concentration and the rates of elimination that are being applied in the calculation.
Now, were you able to perform a retrograde analysis from this defendant's alcohol blood testing from the Good Samaritan?
Yes, I was.
And similarly, did you perform that in conformity with how you performed prior retrograde extrapolation analyses in other cases?
Yes, I did.
And what time was utilized in your analysis as the time of vehicle operation or of incident?
12:45 a.m., January 29th, 2022.
And do you know where that time came from?
I believe it was the time specified in the request from the district attorney's office.
that's interesting. I'm glad we didn't fast forward. Did y'all hear that? That is interesting.
Time was utilized in your analysis as the time of vehicle operation or of incident?
12:45 a.m., January 29th, 2020.
Huh. That is very interesting, isn't it, guys?
Me too.
And do you know where that time came from?
I believe it was the time specified in the request from the district attorney's office.
And why is time of operation or time of incident important?
Because the time interval that we use in the calculation depends on the starting and the ending point of that calculation. So the time of incident is important because that's what we're basing the math on.
And what was the resulting minimum and maximum numbers that you calculated for the defendant's blood alcohol concentration?
Time of incident was 12:45. Interesting.
From her blood testing reading from the Good Samaritan Medical Center?
That based on the 93 milligrams per deciliter value that was obtained at Good Samaritan, that the blood alcohol concentration for that individual at 12:45 a.m. Could be between 0.14 and 0.28 grams per cent.
12:45 when she's already back at John O'Keefe's One Meadows.
And so you calculated the defendant's blood alcohol concentration to be between 0.14 and 0.28 at 12:45 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
So y'all get your votes.
May I approach Mr.
Guys,
Retrial?
Yes.
in the chat. If you haven't already, I'm saying, please. Okay, and now we're
At
on.
this point, I'm only going to give you about 5 minutes.
Hold on. Why does that not surprise me from Judge Bev? But also, hang on, is it Mr. Yannetti? Oh my God, hold on. Meh. Hang on, where is it? Here it is.
Your Honor, I can't do this in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect. Oh, I love Mr. Yannetti. Okay, let's see.
Thank you.
Now that Wally's not doing the talking.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
The Mass State Police Crime Lab, you mentioned, is an accredited forensic lab, correct?
She said.
That's correct.
That means that your lab has met specific internationally recognized standards for both quality and competence, correct?
There are aspects of quality and analyst competence that are addressed in the accreditation standards, yes.
It also means that your lab has demonstrated a commitment to best practices and to ensuring the reliability and accuracy of its forensic work, correct?
Yes.
And there are several.
So the reason he's asking this, right, is to make a distinction from Dr. Fowler, right, who from the hospital where it's not forensic standards, right?
Requirements in order to become accredited, right?
Yes.
One of the most important requirements is an independent external review of your lab's quality management system, correct?
Yes, that's definitely one important component of the accreditation process.
That independent external review also evaluates your lab's technical systems, correct?
Yes.
And its procedures.
Yes.
And an external review means that experts from outside your lab come into your lab to review your work, right?
Yes, the review includes the procedures and the operating protocols, and there is some element of case file and specific work review.
Within your lab.
Correct.
And they make sure that you're following established and proper protocols, correct?
Yes.
Now, as a forensic scientist 4, is one of your responsibilities to ensure compliance with the lab's administrative policies, quality assurance, and control requirements to make sure that you're complying with accreditation standards?
Yes.
And you take pride in your lab's accreditation status, correct?
Yes, it's an achievement that's obtained by the hard work of a lot of folks at the lab working together.
You make sure, or you do your best to make sure that the lab is in compliance because you don't want to lose that accreditation status, correct?
Correct. It's important to ensure confidence in our results, to maintain the quality and maintain the accreditation.
Okay. In contrast to the accreditation standards for a forensic lab like yours, the standards for a hospital lab may be different, correct?
Correct. Typically, accrediting bodies for clinical chemistry or hospital systems are different accrediting bodies or different standards than forensic standards.
Okay. And a forensic lab exists for a different purpose than a hospital lab. Is that right?
Correct. They have different customers and sort of different scope or intention for the use of their results.
Sure. A hospital lab tests and analyzes blood for its use in diagnosing medical illnesses and for medical purposes, correct?
Right.
That's consistent with my understanding, yes.
Sure. And it's not for meeting court admissibility standards like your lab, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Your lab follows strict procedures that an expert from your lab can have confidence in the lab results when they come to testify in court like you're doing today, correct?
Yes.
As you testify here today, you have no information that the lab at Good Samaritan Hospital is an accredited lab, correct?
Correct.
And in addition, Good Samaritan Hospital is an external party in terms of its relationship to your lab, right?
Yes, and for that reason, the type of calculations that we performed based on medical records from Good Samaritan are outside of the scope of accreditation in the crime laboratory system.
Right. It has no relationship to your crime lab, the Good Samaritan lab, right?
Correct. The same policies and procedures are applied when our laboratory analyzes serum, or if we needed to do a retrograde extrapolation on testing that was performed internally that's covered by the scope of accreditation. But as you're mentioning, the testing was not performed in my laboratory. I don't have any direct knowledge or understanding of their QC procedures, of their accreditation requirements, or their testing procedures at all.
You anticipated my next question. So basically, you cannot personally vouch for the ethanol testing that was performed at Good Samaritan, correct?
That's accurate. The reliability of the results that my calculations were based on, my calculations are only as good as the numbers that I was provided. And like I said, the same math that I did here, I would do to my own internal standard or my own internal testing, anything that I performed testing on in the lab myself. But the results that I started from, I don't have any direct knowledge on their accuracy or reliability.
All right, Ms. Tianetti, we can bring Ms. Knowles back on Monday if you want. I don't want to cut you short. That was the time frame.
And I'm perfectly fine with that, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, there's the answer. So she's going to come back on Monday, aka tomorrow, for more testimony. So that will be the start of the day.
Mr. Lally, you're done? Okay. Ms. Knowles, thank you very much. You're all set. You can step down.
Why would you ask if Lolly's done? You're saying you were going to cut cross off, but then give redirect? What? That was weird.
Tianetti, I think everybody
weird.
Appreciates it. So,
nice yawn there. Jesus Christ, that looks terrible in front of the jury, man.
Ms. Tianetti, I think everybody appreciates it. So,
wow. That's disgusting.
All right, jurors, that's it for us for this week. I'll have to give you those cautions in a minute. I can tell you that it looks like next week we're full days every day. We don't expect as long as nights in between as we've had to do. So I think everybody should work really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. The cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Please be very careful with your social media use, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend.
There you have it. There's the only fan. So it sounds like they're going to be bringing Miss Knowles back, unless Mr. United's like, no, we don't have to. But that's what they kind of said. So get your votes in, guys. Anyone who hasn't voted in the poll yet, because I'm going to end this here in a sec. We will be redirecting into the Brian Koberger stream here. So get a couple last seconds to get your votes in. If anyone wants to vote in the poll, vote in the poll. So yeah, and tomorrow, of course, we will be covering the trial. Might be doing it live. I might be doing like a noon thing. I kind of have to see. I've got some things going on, but hopefully we'll get your vote in the poll. Hopefully we can, I probably will be covering it live at some point. And then of course, anything else we don't get to, we will do in the evening, recap style and nooner. Yeah. So the thing is, my thought process is like starting at 12 p.m. is better for our West Coast girlfriends, of which we have quite a few. But also if we start, I've done the math on this. If we start at 12 p.m., then that's when typically around 12 is when they go to lunch, right, at court. And then by the time you figure all their different breaks and sidebars and whatnot, and then if we watch at 1.25 speed, then pretty much we should be able to make our way through the vast majority of the morning testimony while they're at lunch. And we've actually succeeded doing this a couple different times already, and then go directly into the afternoon testimony. And maybe be slightly behind, which again is fine. It'll give us wiggle room to fast forward through the long breaks and sidebars and whatnot. So yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. What are you talking about, Twiz? Silly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, guys. We've got 60% no, 40% yes. Interesting. Much closer than our earlier poll about who won, Jackson or Jen. Interesting. That was 80-20. That's true, Fender. Right. Yeah, that's true. I guess it would probably suck less if it was right at 9 a.m. for you, huh? But okay, guys. So thanks everyone for being here. We will, I'm sure I had more thoughts, but they all come to me as I do timestamps as per usual. Twist says, Fender, you can move to America anytime. Great song, by the way, America by Simon and Garfunkel. Anywho, yeah, as I'm doing timestamps, I always think of more things. But yes, we will go ahead and redirect into the next live stream. So hopefully Lori's portal will work. What time did I start today? You mean this live stream? I started at 8 p.m. this live stream. You know, court starts at, well, supposed to start at 9 a.m. They don't usually start on time. So, but love you guys. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully we'll see you guys all again. If Lori's portal works, we'll see you guys all in Idaho here in just a sec. And hopefully as well tomorrow for more Karen Reed. But for now, squirrel out.